Chapter 8:15. That girl's so strong, Faylai whispered. Lynn wanted to escape, but just then, the police took out their guns. Bang! Lynn's calf was shot and she fell to the ground. Aw! Jerlin, who'd been sleeping soundly, was startled awake by the gunshot. Faylai immediately coaxed Jerlin. Chen Zhao frowned. 2 police officers walked up and handcuffed Lynn. Lynn's face was filled with pain, but when she saw Chen Zhao, she suddenly felt hope. He can prove it, he can prove that I. Lynn pointed at Chen Zhao and yelled, I was with him the whole time just now. Sir, can you please go to the police station? I'm not free. Chen Zhao rejected the police's request directly. By then, Faylai had also calmed Jerlin down. Excuse me, did something happen? Faylai asked. Her parents were found dead at home. When we arrived at the scene, we realized that she didn't see her parents' bodies and was even watching TV. We have reason to suspect that she killed her parents. Faylai looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't speak. 2 days ago, Lynn's parents had invited him to treat Lynn. Chen Zhao felt that her parents' attitude toward Lynn was a bit strange. But he couldn't tell what exactly was strange. At first, Chen Zhao didn't take it to heart, but now that he thought about it, he found it strange. Plumber and Sandra seemed to be afraid of their daughter. Was it fear? Chen Zhao couldn't tell. Also, Lynn had said before that her parents couldn't control her. When were they killed? Chen Zhao asked. The neighbors reported that they saw her parents at 5:40 p.m., so they should have been killed after 5:40 p.m. Chen Zhao looked at Lynn. Lynn's eyes were filled with pleading. If it was at 5:40, then it shouldn't be her. 30 minutes ago, when my girlfriend and I left home, we met her on the road. The parking recorder in our car recorded it clearly. It should take 20 minutes to get to her house from where we met, and 40 minutes to and fro. Plus, she was walking, so it's even more impossible for her to meet us at the place where we met and then return home after killing her parents. She probably wouldn't make it in time. Also, my girlfriend and I decided to come out for dinner at the last minute. She wouldn't have waited for us on that road and purposely create an alibi. Aw. My leg hurts. I need treatment. Lin En immediately shouted, You police are enforcing the law violently. I want to sue you, I want you to compensate. Chen Zhao glanced at Lin. He was indeed like this. Chen Zhao had already said what he needed to say. As for Lin's outcome and whether he would be convicted, it had nothing to do with him. Of course, from a logical point of view. At the same time, it was also from the perspective of time. She probably wasn't the one who killed her parents. Then, Chen Zhao gave the USB drive of the car recorder to the police. Chen, do you think that girl really killed her parents? I don't know. I don't think so, Chen Zhao answered. But how can she still be so calm when facing her parents' bodies? This was something Faylai couldn't understand. Chen Zhao didn't find it strange. After all, there were all kinds of birds in a big forest. Faylai had a close relationship with her parents. But not all parents and children have an intimate relationship. As the saying went, even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. This was true everywhere. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't want to say it so clearly. He would rather Faylai keep her kindness forever. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of the man who had met his eyes twice in the past. Was it that person? However, that man didn't seem very likely in terms of time. Lin had been cleared of suspicion. She was now receiving treatment in the hospital. One of her feet was hung on a shelf and she was playing with her phone. As for her parents' deaths, she didn't feel sad at all. Just then, a doctor wearing a mask walked in with his head lowered. Lin put down her phone and frowned at the doctor. Michael. It's you. The person took off his mask and revealed his face. It was the person who had been wandering around Lynn for a few days. You killed my parents. Not me, Michael said. I didn't kill your parents. I'm here to take you away. I'm not going anywhere. They're the ones who killed your parents. They already know you're here. They'll probably come for you soon. Do you want to go back to that place? They killed my parents. Yes. Now, come with me immediately. How many of them are there? Lynn said. If there's only one person, we can kill him together. I don't know. I only found one. At that moment, the door opened again. A nurse came in from outside. However, this nurse was tall and had a cold aura around her. Michael instantly raised his hand and shot the dagger at the nurse. The nurse caught Michael's dagger with her 2 fingers. The nurse threw the dagger back at Michael. Just then, the leaflet on Lynn's body was suddenly lifted and a dagger was thrown in her hand. It deflected the dagger that was shot at Michael. Let's go. Lynn shouted and jumped off the bed. At the same time, she smashed the glass and jumped down from the 3rd floor. She landed safely on the ground without any injury. Michael followed closely behind and landed on the ground. Michael glanced at Lynn and asked, "Your leg injury? It's been healed for a long time. Then why are you still in the hospital? Did you expect them to come looking for you?" Yes. Lynn nodded. The drug is still working. I need to find a quiet place to rest and wait for them to come. Michael looked upstairs. The woman disguised as a nurse did not jump down to chase them. Your drug is still working? Michael asked in surprise. Yes. I stopped in the 4th period. I'm in the 5th period now, Lynn said. Michael looked at Lynn with a twinkle in his eyes. No wonder they're after you. But I should also thank them. They helped me kill my parents. They helped me do what I couldn't do, Lynn said with a smile. So what do we do now? Michael asked. Find a place to stay first. It's not safe here, Lynn said. By the way, do you have a car? No. Chapter 8:16. Phalai, I don't think you need to do this. What do you mean? You're not even a month pregnant. Why do you have to be like a 7 or 8-month-old woman, holding her stomach with one hand and supporting her waist with the other? Don't you think it's more professional? Professional for what? A professional pregnant woman. Chen Zhao covered his face, speechless. Phalai glanced at him. Chen Zhao happened to meet her gaze. Why was there a sense of superiority in Phalai's eyes? You men will never be able to experience the anticipation of being a mother. You can't understand how it feels to be a father either. Pfft. Man, you only gave up 1 sperm. Phalai looked at Chen Zhao. I gave up for 10 months. It was said that pregnancy could change a woman's personality. In the past, Chen Zhao had scoffed at it, but now he believed it. Phalai had completely turned into a battle-hungry little tiger. Fine, you're pregnant, so you're the biggest. Darling, don't forget that I've been working hard in the 10 months before you got pregnant, so I didn't give up any less than you did. You didn't work hard for 10 months. You enjoyed it for 10 months. We should recognize this fact. Do you know why lions never hunt on the African savanna? Chen Zhao looked at Phalai. Because lions have a low rate of fertilization, the male needs a lot of effort. Maybe 30 or 40 times a day, so we can't deny the lion's efforts. Don't you think so? You're not a lion. How do you know that lions don't enjoy the process? Enjoyment and hard work don't conflict. It's like how I work hard to earn money, but I also enjoy the process of earning money. Let's use modern medicine as an example. In a woman's lifetime, there are about 400 to 500 mature follicles that ovulate, while a man can produce trillions of sperm in his lifetime. In other words, as long as enough sperm are collected and preserved, a man's gender or species can completely disappear, but a woman can't. Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. In the past, Fei Lai had never understood such knowledge. Why did she even understand such unorthodox knowledge after getting pregnant? Don't be surprised. I've read a lot of books about this in order to get pregnant. I also know that bone marrow stem cells can be used to induce and cultivate sperm or eggs. However, this technology is not perfect, so it's not within the scope of our discussion. Chen Zhao's face twitched. He was really speechless. Chen Zhao even wondered if Fei Lai had considered it before. If you can't get pregnant naturally, look for technical support. Just then, Ethan called. Chen Zhao was overjoyed. It was a timely call. He could finally move on from his argument with Fei Lai. Hey, Ethan, what's up? I have a client, $20,000. Do you have time? I'll send you the address. Okay, send me the address. $20,000 was already the lowest price he could accept. But this time, Chen Zhao could not wait to go to the client's home. Fei Lai, I'm going out to meet a client. Okay, go ahead. It's getting dark, so be careful on the road. Bring me some snacks when you come back. Chen Zhao chuckled. Ever since Fei Lai got pregnant, her gluttony became more obvious. In the past, Fei Lai could eat so much without gaining weight. That was because she was a member of the coastal rescue team. Even if he didn't save anyone, he still had to train a lot. Basically, the more you eat, the more calories you burn. But it was different now. She now had a double neck. Of course, it was good that pregnant women could eat. Some had small appetites because of their eating habits. They would still be as thin as a bamboo pole after 3 or 4 months. Their belly would only swell at 6 months. This type of pregnant woman was extremely harmful to herself and the child in her womb. Apart from the environment they grew up in, a person's health was actually decided from the moment they were born. Pregnant women like these had a high chance of giving birth to an unhealthy child. Moreover, the child's development and growth would be affected too. So, Chen Zhao would satisfy whatever Fei Lai wanted to eat. Of course, he still controlled some special foods and nutrients. For example, he had a strict control over sugar intake. He put away almost all the Western medicine in the house. Chen Zhao drove the car to a desolate street. There was no light in the entire street. Chen Zhao touched his nose. The people hiding in this almost desolate street were either fugitives or desperados. Chen Zhao was starting to worry if he could collect the $20,000 consultation fee. If it was when he had just arrived in America, he would probably turn around and leave. But now, Chen Zhao was not afraid anymore. So, a person's courage was directly related to their ability. Chen Zhao carried the case and walked toward a 2-3-story building. In this small building, there were no external walls, and wind could pass through all 4 sides. Just then, a gun was pointed at the back of Chen Zhao's head. Who are you? Where's my patient? Chen Zhao asked. You're a doctor. Yes. Walk forward. The room in the corner. Chen Zhao did not move. Our rule is to collect the money first. If you keep talking, I'll let you collect a bullet first. Unfortunately, the man's words did not scare Chen Zhao. Still standing there, Chen Zhao said calmly, since you called a doctor, it should be you or your friend who needs treatment. If you kill me now, you won't be able to find another doctor. I can promise you that. As an illegal doctor, there were certain risks. But most of the time, the risks did not come from the client. Clients who could seek treatment from illegal doctors usually followed the rules. They knew very well that if they hurt the doctor, they would be completely isolated. The person behind Chen Zhao hesitated, but in the end, he still lowered his gun. "You're not afraid that I'll kill you?" "Earning money is more important to me," Chen Zhao answered. "Here's the 20,000 we agreed on." Chen Zhao turned around and saw the man in the darkness. It was the person he had seen in the distance in Mountain Town. However, the man did not recognize Chen Zhao. "Where's my client?" Chen Zhao asked. "Follow me." Michael brought Chen Zhao into the room. Chen Zhao saw that it was a room with only a mattress. A woman lay on the mattress. Her name was Lin. Chapter 8:17. Chen Zhao looked at Lin, who was covered in wounds. Then he looked back at Michael. "Did you guys have too much fun playing S&M? We're not in that kind of relationship." Lin stared at Chen Zhao with a dark expression. "Can you treat me or not?" Chen Zhao walked up and started treating Lin's injuries. Lin's injuries were all caused by punches and kicks. The person who'd done it was very vicious. To Chen Zhao's surprise, Lin didn't cry out in pain even once. Chen Zhao remembered that Lin had tried to blackmail him twice. He'd braked in time each time, but Lin had slammed her head into his car. This woman was clearly the type that cared more about money than her life. "How many cars did you blackmail today? How about we work together? You blackmail and I treat you. We can definitely earn more money like this." "Shut up." Lin stared at Chen Zhao coldly. "Did you kill your parents?" Chen Zhao asked curiously. "No." "Then was it him?" "No," Lin said indifferently. Lin then said indifferently, "But even if they are not dead, I will kill them one day." "Is your relationship that bad?" Chen Zhao didn't want to educate her. It was just pure gossip. He just wanted to know why their relationship was so bad. She wasn't even moved by her parents' deaths. At least, Chen Zhao couldn't be so heartless. For example, Chen Zhao himself. Even though his relationship with her mother had always been distant. But if her mother passed away one day, Chen Zhao couldn't be indifferent either. Lin's relationship with her parents wasn't as simple as distant. They were more like enemies. "What does it have to do with you?" "I'm just curious." Chen Zhao applied ointment to the bruises and bandaged some places. "Okay, don't do anything you like to do in the next few days." "We're not that kind of relationship," Michael said from the door. "You don't need me to explain." "I'm not interested in your relationship," Chen Zhao said. "Okay, I should go. Bye." Michael glanced at Chen Zhao's departing figure. "Should I make him disappear?" Michael asked. "Never mind, no need." Lin shook her head. Chen Zhao didn't want any trouble. Being an illegal doctor was a high-risk industry. Chen Zhao still remembered Ethan's warning when he first entered the profession. Of course, Chen Zhao often broke these rules. However, as long as the patients paid honestly, Chen Zhao would do his best to treat them. Chen Zhao didn't walk quickly. He wasn't sure if Lin and Michael would kill him. If they attacked, Chen Zhao would fight back. But until they left the building, Lin and Michael did not do anything. Just then, he heard gunshots from upstairs. Chen Zhao frowned. He was about to turn around, but then he stopped. "Forget it, it has nothing to do with me." He wasn't familiar with them, and he wasn't even related to them. No matter what happened above, it had nothing to do with him. Chen Zhao returned to the car. As soon as the car started moving, a figure rushed to the front of the car. "Dong, fuck, don't tell me you want the consultation fee back." Chen Zhao didn't plan to get out. As expected, the man stood up again. It was a woman, but not Lin. The woman was covered in blood. She must have been fighting with Lin and Michael just now, right? Anyway, he didn't hit her. Just as Chen Zhao was hesitating about whether to get out and check, another gunshot rang out. Then the woman's head tilted to the side. Blood shot out from her temple and she fell to the ground. Chen Zhao looked at the building 30 meters away. Lin was standing at the edge of the building, gun in hand. But she didn't seem to want to come down and kill Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao just wanted to leave this troublesome place. The $20,000 wasn't easy to earn. Lin had clearly joined some organization. Her shooting skills were probably similar to Gaia's. California was a large desert, and the American people built cities in this desert. The South was dry and lacked water. The geology was hard rock, unlike the Sahara Desert, which was completely desertified. There were still some military fortresses under some of the wastelands in California. Some military fortresses had been forgotten long ago. Even the military couldn't find any records about them. Outside the northern part of Los Angeles was a large area of broken rocks. This had once been the military's weapon testing ground. In fact, during the Cold War, the military had done a lot of weapon testing inside the country and in the Pacific Ocean. Many places were restricted areas. It wasn't that the government forbade people from entering, but they were dangerous areas. Base BA-12 had once existed as an underground military base. There were many underground bases along the coast of America. During the Cold War, even the American government thought that the war would break out and destroy the world. So, they built many such bases. This kind of underground military base had a super strong defense. The standard was to withstand a nuclear explosion with the equivalent of 10 million tons of TNT. But after the Cold War, everything calmed down. The government also reduced military spending, which led to the abandonment of a large number of underground military bases. Now, Base BA-12 had been completely forgotten. There wasn't any evidence of the base's existence in the files. Also, no one knew that the base had already been occupied. It wasn't a military base anymore. Instead, it had become a laboratory. Advanced equipment had already covered this underground laboratory. It was sealed and hidden, and the surrounding environment was dangerous. Outsiders wouldn't be able to detect the existence of the underground laboratory. The main people in charge of the laboratories were currently in a meeting. Dominic, what's going on with our important experimental subject escaping? Chapter 8:18. Reactivation of the drug. The supervisor's eyes lit up as he looked at Dominic. This has never happened in the past experiments. Yes. That's why I want to continue my research when I get back and see if I can find the reason on L-74. Perhaps this L-74 will be the key to our breakthrough. Do we need to send more weapons? After all, L-74 has grown to the 5th stage. 2 Weapon X might not be able to bring back the living L-74. Not at the moment. Weapon X is specialized for combat. It's completely different from L-74. Even in the same stage, there's a world of difference in combat power. Then regarding the recovery of L-74, I'll leave it to you, Dominic. I hope to see L-74 as soon as possible. I understand. Also, our lab has been short of manpower recently. The lifespan of the researchers under our control is too short. All of them have less than 3 years of life. We need to increase the number of new people, the supervisor said. Supervisor, since the researchers are already trapped here, we don't necessarily have to use Agent X to control them. As long as we give them a little threat, they will listen to us obediently. Most of the researchers' physical fitness is very poor, and the difference between them and the test subjects is too great. It is impossible for them to withstand the effects of Agent X. Basically, the first and second stages are already the limit. Drug X was the genetic drug they developed and researched. This drug could greatly improve the various functions of the human body. However, this drug was not completely without side effects. Drug X had a total of 8 stages. After a normal person took it, there would be a periodic growth process. Each growth would greatly improve the functions of the human body. However, this growth was not completely without a price. The human body was too mysterious. The improvement of physical functions often meant that some aspects would decrease. For example, the reduction of lifespan. This was also the weakness of Drug X. Agent X is not only used to control them, but it can also further improve their intelligence. Although the usage period is a little short, in these 2 to 3 years, the research results of a researcher who has used Agent X may be something that can never be achieved in a lifetime under normal circumstances. Another bald professor spoke up. He was also one of the researchers who was captured here. However, he successfully broke through the limit and reached the 4th stage. At the 4th stage of Drug X, the lifespan would return to normal and would no longer be as short-lived as before. Therefore, he became one of the main people in charge of the lab and came into contact with the core secrets of the lab. That's why we need new researchers as well, the supervisor said. The bald professor took the initiative to say, I've already made a list. Supervisor, please take a look. The supervisor took the list and scanned it. This Chinese Shen Zhao, are you sure he can do it? He hasn't done any research work. He's a professor at UCLA and has superb medical skills. He's also a talent that our lab needs. He's also an illegal doctor and is close to us, so it's very convenient for us to bring him here and replenish the manpower in our lab as soon as possible. Alright, I'll leave this matter to you. Bang bang, a weapon X fell at Michael's feet. At this moment, Michael was exhausted. He had almost been killed by a weapon. The difference between the 4th and 5th stages of Agent X was simply too great. What's more, he was an L-type experimental subject, while his opponent was an X-type weapon. He and Lin and were found by 2 Weapon XS, and both parties engaged in a bitter battle. Michael's super physique had no advantage in front of Weapon X. His strength, speed, and combat awareness were all lacking. It was the same for Lin N. They were both in the 5th stage of Agent X, but Weapon X was specially bred. and was completely different from them. Previously, the two of them had to work together to barely kill a Weapon X. This time, they had only managed to do so after carefully setting up a trap. This time, they were found by 2 Weapon X. Michael had thought that he was dead for sure. However, Lin N, who had been suppressed earlier, suddenly counterattacked and killed Weapon X. Then, he helped Michael kill the second Weapon X. Michael sat on the ground, exhausted. His face was swollen and covered in wounds. He didn't want to move anymore. Lin N walked out from the shadows. Michael looked at Lin N. How did you do it? How could you defeat Weapon X in a head-on battle? The 5th stage of Agent X has an extremely strong learning ability. The fighting techniques they use, as long as I use them once, I can basically learn them. They aren't absolutely invincible. Of course, when he didn't kill me immediately, it meant that I had a chance to fight back. Lin also sat on the ground in exhaustion. Although she said it was easy, it was not a big deal. But in reality, this battle wasn't easy either. After all, Weapon X was on the same level as her. And she was only a late learner. All the high-end combat techniques that she knew were learned from Weapon X. Moreover, this kind of victory was very tricky. In a battle between a student and a teacher, when both sides were on the same level, the outcome would be influenced by many external factors. It wasn't just one point that could win. Environment, emotions, and psychological activity would all affect the outcome. I'm very tired. I need to rest. Lin slowly closed her eyes. Hi, Chen Zhao, Fei Lai. Leonardo moved a large pile of baby products. Ever since he heard that Chen Zhao had a daughter and that Fei Lai was pregnant, Leonardo had bought these things. After asking his colleagues, Leonardo bought these things and came over. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they saw Leonardo's gifts. Stephen, Rasfa, and his mother had all given the same kind of gift before. Now, with Leonardo's help, Gerland's things were more than the two of them combined. Alright, since it was a gift from a guest, there was no reason to reject or dislike it. Fei Lai came out with a few cans of beer. She didn't allow Chen Zhao to drink at home. But since the guest was here, he couldn't just reject it. Don't drink too much, Fei Lai warned. Okay. Chen Zhao nodded with a smile and tossed a can of beer to Leonardo. Oh, Chen, do you remember the missing girl, Lin? Yeah, I do. What's wrong? Chapter 8:19. Plumber and Sandra are both gamblers and drug addicts. They owe a lot of money, Leonardo said. Leonardo said, and a year ago, when Lin disappeared, they actually paid off most of their debts. Of course, a year has passed, and they owe a lot of money again. I still don't understand what this has to do with Lin's bad relationship with them. I went to the bank to check their accounts. In September last year, they suddenly received a transfer of $500,000. I still don't understand. They sold their daughter. In the end, Leonardo still told him the truth. Chen Zhao gasped. It was hard to imagine something like selling a daughter. Moreover, it happened to an adult who already had his own consciousness. It was hard to imagine such a thing happening. It was hard to imagine. Who bought her? Don't tell me it's an organization that sells women to Europe. I don't know. It's an anonymous account. I can't find any more information, but it shouldn't be that kind of organization. At least, when Lin came back last month, there were no records of her leaving or entering the country. Whatever. It has nothing to do with me. Chen Zhao shook his head. He now somewhat understood why Lin would treat her parents like that. She didn't even shed a single tear for their deaths. Then he thought about it. Her parents were both gamblers and drug addicts. What kind of environment would she grow up in? Don't say that no matter what, they would always be her parents. People who could say something like that were easy to say. For example, there was a local talk show host with the surname Zhou. Her biological parents had sold her to someone else when she was young. When she grew up, she had to recognize her biological parents and ask the grown-up girl to pay for a house for her son. But this show guy said that she would only recognize adoptive parents and not biological parents. The girl was ungrateful. However, reality also proved that this show guy was using a moral standard that he didn't even have to ask the girl to be a ridiculous moral standard. As the saying went, if you betray me, I won't shed a tear for you. This was about love, but it could also be used to refer to other emotions. However, this also made Chen Zhao feel that he should treat Gerlin and the unborn child better. Fei Lai was also listening to Chen Zhao and Leonardo's conversation. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai exchanged glances and smiled knowingly. There was no need for too many words. One look was enough. I'm leaving. Every time I see the two of you making eye contact, my heart feels stifled. When can I find my other half? After Leonardo left, Chen Zhao called again. Chen, I have a client. $50,000. Okay, send me the address. Chen Zhao picked up his toolbox, kissed Fei Lai goodbye, and left. While driving, Chen Zhao looked at the address Ethan had sent. Why is it in the suburbs? It's so far away. The journey alone took more than an hour. When Chen Zhao arrived at the designated location, there were no houses around. There wasn't even a car. Fuck me, could it be that I've been fooled? There were weeds all around, and as far as the eye could see, it was all dark yellow rock fragments. There was almost no green at all. Just as he was about to leave, a car came from behind and stopped beside him. A bold old man got out of the car and walked up to Chen Zhao. Hello, are you Mr. Chen? I am. Who's this? I'm Stellan. My boss sent me to take you to see him. Your boss? Where is he? Because my boss can't meet people, we gave him a fake address. Please follow me, Stellan said. Take my car. What about my car? Just here. No one will come here, Stellan said. Don't worry about losing your car. Okay. Chen Zhao got into Stellan's car and realized that there were two people in the back seat. Mr. Chen, because my boss has a special identity, it's not convenient for outsiders to know his location, so I need your cooperation. How? Chen Zhao asked. Please put on this mask. The backseat person gave Chen Zhao a black mask. Chen Zhao frowned. This isn't part of our agreement. I've never accepted such a ridiculous request. Mr. Chen, please understand. I don't understand, Chen Zhao said. I won't meet your boss. Please stop the car. I can increase the price. How about $100,000? Chen Zhao still refused. I don't need this client. 200,000. Chen Zhao hesitated, but he still shook his head. I refuse. $200,000 was indeed a lot of money. However, covering his eyes would make Chen Zhao feel very insecure. The two people in the back seat looked at him with evil intentions. How about this? I can allow you to go with your eyes open, but that place is a bit special. After you go in, you have to listen to my arrangements. Chen Zhao thought about it and nodded. Sure. As long as he didn't cover his head, everything was fine. Stellan didn't let the two Weapon XS in the back seat fight because he was worried that they would go too far. After all, Weapon XS were all killing techniques. He was really afraid that they would kill Chen Zhao. Right now, the lab was lacking manpower. Stellan didn't want the newbie to be in trouble before he could do anything. Chen Zhao looked out the window. The place he'd stopped at was already very remote. However, it was even more remote. There weren't any buildings along the way. Chen Zhao thought that Stellan's boss was some escaped criminal, which was why he hid in such a remote place. Just then, the car stopped, but there was still nothing around. We're here, Stellan said. Here. Where is it? Just then, the gravel ground in front of them suddenly split open, revealing a tunnel. So high-tech. What do you do here? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Lab, Stellan said. We need to go through the disinfection tunnel later, so we need your cooperation. Okay. Chen Zhao didn't think too much about it. He looked around. Stellan brought Chen Zhao into an isolation room and gestured at the camera inside. Whoosh, whoosh, a large amount of gas suddenly sprayed out from the top of the isolation room. Chen Zhao pinched his nose. He felt that his mind was a bit slow. Then a strong wave of drowsiness hit him. Oh no! Chen Zhao reacted, but it was too late. He fell to the ground with a thud. A few people came in. Stellan looked at Chen Zhao on the ground. Impressive. He can actually last 10 seconds. That can even hypnotize an elephant. Dr. Stellan, is it because he's strong? Chapter 820. Lynn opened her eyes. Michael was overjoyed to see Lynn wake up. Lynn, you're awake. You've been asleep for 24 hours. Have I been asleep for that long? Lynn looked at her hands. Michael noticed that Lynn's gaze was strange. She seemed to be observing her own hands. It was as if she was observing a strange body. Lynn, what's wrong? Me? I'm fine. I've never been better. Lynn's whole body relaxed. Michael felt a little afraid of Lynn. Let's go, Lynn said. Go? Where are we going? Home, Lynn said. Home? Do we have a home? Yes, of course. To get back our things and to repay the family members who pushed us to the operating table. You want to take revenge. Michael's expression changed. He never wanted to return to that laboratory. That place was a nightmare for him. He just wanted to escape with Lynn to a place where no one knew them and live out his life. Lynn looked at Michael. You don't want to go with me? Lynn, it's too dangerous there. There are countless weapons there. Essentially, we are the same as them. We are all people who have been injected with drug X. So in terms of ability, there is not much difference between us, Lynn said. Lynn then said, what we lack is experience, and our brains can operate at a high speed, so learning is easy for us. Although you are in the 4th stage of Agent X, and do not have the ability to learn instantly like the 5th stage, you are still smarter than the average person. On the contrary, those Weapon X, compared to us, their biggest weakness is that they have never come into contact with the outside world. Their way of thinking is different from us, so as long as we use the right method, we can defeat them. One bullet can kill them. Lynn looked at her hands. And I am no longer who I used to be. Michael looked at Lynn. He was a little afraid of Lynn. The current Lynn. That completely different attitude and tone, as well as the unfamiliar gaze. It made Michael feel that Lynn was a different person. Are you still Lynn? Of course I am. It's just that my brain knows how to operate more efficiently. Lynn said indifferently, if you refuse, I will go alone. I will go with you. Michael finally made up his mind. Agent X has been consumed. My heartbeat. His heartbeat is slightly slower than normal. Body temperature. His body temperature is 44 degrees Celsius higher than normal. Breathe. 18 times per minute, within the normal range. Brain waves. The brain waves are stable. Is there any resistance to Agent X? No resistance. Stellan looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. I didn't think that this Chinese guy wouldn't have any resistance to Agent X. His body is very healthy. I can't even find the slightest injury. I'm really looking forward to seeing his expression when he realizes that he has become stronger. I hope he can be more honest and not suffer too much. Chen Zhao woke up slowly. He had a very comfortable sleep. He hadn't slept so well in a long time. The last time he slept so soundly was before Jerlin came. Ever since Jerlin came, Chen Zhao would wake up every night and go to the side room to check on her. This was a matter of habit, even though there were lesser demons watching over him. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao still needed to check on her every night. The only thing that annoyed Chen Zhao was that this comfortable bed didn't belong to him. Chen Zhao realized that he was in a glass isolation room. Moreover, there was another person in the room. The person had his arms under his head and was lying on the bed with his legs crossed. He was a tall and skinny man. Hi, you're awake. I'm your roommate. You can call me Emil. Can you tell me where this is? Also, what's going on? It's obvious that you and I have been kidnapped. Kidnapped? Me? I've been kidnapped. Chen Zhao asked in surprise, his mouth hanging open. Yes, Emil said. I'm from Switzerland. What about you? China. Chen Zhao looked around. Can you explain the situation? I don't know the specifics. I was tricked into coming here, and then they gave me a strange potion that made me stronger than before. I can now lift a barbell weighing 150 kilograms. But I've been here for almost a month. I've been locked up here, and I've been waiting for you to come. Emil had been locked up for too long. He seemed to need someone to talk to, so he couldn't stop talking. Are you saying that we're lab rats? Definitely not just lab rats. I'm a Swiss geneticist. Before this, I worked for Switzerland's White Star Laboratory. If they wanted lab rats, they wouldn't have tricked me all the way here. Emil looked at Chen Zhao. You should be an expert in this field, right? Me? I'm just a doctor, an illegal doctor, Chen Zhao said. Okay, at least you're an expert in the medical field, so they probably didn't just use us as lab rats. Chen Zhao walked to the floor-to-ceiling glass and pressed it. There's no need to try. This is tempered glass, 20 centimeters thick. Even a bomb can't destroy it. I used that potion and my strength is close to a boxer of the same level, but I can't do anything to this glass. You only took it for a day, so you can't do anything either, Emil said. Also, there's sleeping gas in the room. Once the people monitoring the room find something wrong, they'll release the gas immediately. You slept for 24 hours, so you were hypnotized by the gas. Chen Zhao raised his head and looked at the monitor. Then, he looked at the injector. Since it could hypnotize him last time, it would probably be the same this time. Chen Zhao had to behave for now. Since they'd captured him, he couldn't lock him here forever. They would bring him out eventually. He would think of something then. Chen Zhao waved at the camera and gave it the middle finger. So boring. Are there any entertainment facilities? Let's chat, Emil said. I'm hungry. Chen Zhao looked around. When is our dinner? Chapter 8:21. After 3 hours, he finally got through it. Usually, he couldn't even calm down for 30 minutes. He had to sit in the isolation room calmly for 3 hours. This kind of pain was unimaginable to others. Of course, what was more painful was that he would rather calm down. Because his roommate was a chatterbox. Chen Zhao even wanted to die. He stood up and walked to the monitor. Hey, can you change rooms for me? I don't want to stay here anymore. Can you change rooms for me? Chen, do you dislike me that much? Amber looked at Chen Zhao, aggrieved. That's right. I dislike you. Can't I keep you company? Thank you for your family. I also thank you for asking on behalf of my family. Oh, is this how you Chinese greet each other? Amber asked sincerely. Help. Chen Zhao grabbed his hair. Stop bothering me. Let me be quiet for a while. How long is a while? Give me an accurate time. Chen Zhao's head was about to explode. He finally understood that Amber hadn't been bored for too long. He was a chatterbox with low EQ. At that moment, Stellan walked outside. Hello, Mr. Chen. Are you used to this place? Chen Zhao looked at Stellan, who was wearing a white coat. Not good at all. I haven't seen my girlfriend or daughter for 24 hours. You'll get used to it slowly. After all, you'll probably be here for the next few years. Ha. I bet that's impossible. Chen Zhao looked at Stellan. I'll leave here, catch you, and shove your head into the toilet. First, you have to take a dump, Amber added. Chen Zhao and Stellan both turned to look at Amber. Amber touched his nose, a bit embarrassed. I just wanted to remind you. Okay, I agree. Chen Zhao turned around and looked at Stellan. So, I think you should let us out now and I'll pretend this never happened. I'll continue to stuff your head into the toilet, but at least I won't let Emil shit his shit. Ha. Do you know what Agent X is? Don't change the subject. Drug X is a special medicine that is synthesized using electrolyte substances. It is different from the current Western medicine. Most Western medicine has chemical components, and the effects of Western medicine are either absorbed by the body or expelled from the body. After Drug X enters the human body, it will melt back into electrolyte substances. The first stage is to break the spirochete and recombine the DNA spirochete. After recombining the DNA, you will become smarter and stronger. Mr. Chin, I've checked your file. You're a very outstanding doctor with excellent medical skills. That's why I sincerely invite you to become a member of our team and complete the research of Agent X with me. Didn't you give me the X drug to drink? Why do you want to continue the research? That's an imperfect Agent X. If you can't grow to the 4th stage, then you'll most likely die from accelerated cell division. How long can we live? Amber asked. It won't be more than 4 years. Most of the time, it'll be 3 years. What do you mean by the 4th stage? If it's a perfect Drug X, it can help an ordinary person grow into a Superman. This is the theoretical result. However, so far, the only person who has grown to the 7th stage has completely lost his sense of self. No one has ever grown to the 8th stage. Can we fly in the sky like Superman? Amber asked. Of course not. Everything we research is based on science. But our strength and resistance are almost 10 times that of a normal person. Then can the eyes shoot out infrared lasers? Emil asked. No, then can we see through things? No, flash hearing. No. Flash seeing. No. Then it's really boring. Chen Zhao nodded. I think so too. If we can't fly at supersonic speed, shoot lasers, see through things, and hear through things, what kind of Superman is that? Stellan's face darkened. These two guys were completely unreasonable. I'll give you 2-3 days to think about it. If you're still stubborn after 3 days, I'll execute you. Our lab doesn't keep useless people. Before you execute us, can we have a full meal first? I'm hungry. Chen Zhao grinned. Stellan stared at him coldly. Finally, he said to his follower, get them something to eat. Chen, we only have 3 days left. I'm starting to miss my parents. You can listen to his request. That way, you can live for more than 3 days. No, I won't go against my ideals. What's your ideal? Justice. Forget it. We can't talk anymore. Just then, the alarm went off. The red alarm kept spinning. Boom, boom, suddenly, 2 violent explosions rang out, and a wave of raging flames surged in from the exit outside. 3 people were blown away by the flames. Then 2 people came in. Lin and Michael. Chen Zhao looked at them. Lin and Michael looked at Chen Zhao too. Why are you here? Lin asked with a frown. It's a long story. Then make it short. Simply put, I've been captured. Lin looked at Chen Zhao. After thinking for a second, he pressed the passcode on the door. Tick, the door opened. Chen Zhao and Emil regained their freedom. Do you know how to use a gun? Lin asked. Without waiting for Chen Zhao's reply, Lin stuffed an automatic assault rifle into Chen Zhao and Emil's hands. You have to join us and help us destroy this lab. Can I not join? Emil asked carefully. Lynn glanced at Emil coldly. What do you think? There's a lot of Weapon X here, Michael said. If you don't fight back, they'll kill you. Suddenly, Lin pointed his gun at Qin Zhao without any warning. Qin Zhao froze. Lin had already fired. But it wasn't aimed at Qin Zhao. Instead, it was aimed at the person running in from the tunnel behind Qin Zhao. Lin glanced at Qin Zhao. You should load your gun first. Oh. Qin Zhao pulled the barrel with force. Crack. The gun was damaged by Qin Zhao's pull. The barrel was pulled out. Qin Zhao froze. He'd become stronger again. Every time Qin Zhao's strength increased, it meant that he had to adapt to the new power again. Lin looked at Qin Zhao with a dark expression. Qin Zhao was also a bit embarrassed. This gun's quality is really bad. Chapter 822. Did Potion X work on him? Qin Zhao looked at his hands. He looked in front and back. Michael glanced at Qin Zhao. He felt that Qin Zhao's eyes were very similar to Lin's. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was impossible. There was too much of a difference between them. Let's go, Qin Zhao shouted. Let's go and stuff that Stellan's head in the toilet. That's right. We're going to poop first. Emmanuel raised his arms. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone's heads shrank back. Emmanuel's gun went off. Fuck, be careful. Give me your gun. Qin Zhao grabbed Emmanuel's gun. Lin walked in front. Michael, Qin Zhao, and Emmanuel were in charge of defending against attacks from other directions. But it was strange. It seemed that all the enemies were coming from the front. Qin Zhao had not fired a single shot yet. How scary was Lin's shooting? Anyone who poked their head out from the front would have a headshot in 0.1 seconds. He would not give them a chance to attack. Jolson held 2 Desert Eagles in his hands. Qin Zhao had heard that the Desert Eagle was not very useful. It was just that they were famous and looked cool. Actually, the Desert Eagle's lethality was not bad. If a bullet hit an adult's head, it would explode immediately. Back then, Kane's head was hit by a small caliber pistol. That was how he survived. If it had been the Desert Eagle that hit Kane's head, Qin Zhao would not have been able to save him. Even God would not have been able to save him. The biggest problem with the Desert Eagle was its weight and recoil. Adults had to hold the gun with both hands. Shooting with one hand would hurt the arm. However, this little bit of weight and recoil was nothing to Jolson. Lin never stopped walking. He shot one person at a time. But just then, when the 4 of them turned a corner, the sound of machine guns rang out in front of them. Fortifications had already been set up on the walkway around the bend. 2 machine guns were set up. They were waiting for the 4 of them to go over so that they would be trapped. The 4 of them covered their heads and scurried back to the corner. Lin looked at the other 3 who were in a mess. Her eyes were full of disdain. The 3 of them were indeed unreliable. Jolson suddenly stretched his body and stepped on the wall with one foot. He used the force to jump up and swung his hands several times in a row. The machine gunners on the other side did not even have time to react before they were all shot in the head by Jolson. You can come out now. The 3 of them carefully followed behind Jolson. Lin then began to quicken her pace. She did not want to delay any longer. She needed to end the battle as soon as possible. The longer it dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for her. The 3 people behind him looked at Lin En as if he was the protagonist of a movie. Almost none of the bullets could hit her, and she could kill one person with each shot. Jolson rushed into a ring-shaped field with many doors around it. People kept rushing out of the door, and Jolson's bullets were even faster. She had used the Desert Eagle as a machine gun, and she had not missed her target. However, he suddenly realized that there were no more bullets. He was about to pick up the enemy's weapon from the ground. A figure suddenly descended from the sky, and a huge fist smashed towards Lin En. Lin En hurriedly raised his arms to block, and the opponent punched at Lin En. Jolson stepped back and raised his head to look at the man. The big man who had suddenly appeared rushed towards Lin En with large strides. Lin En suddenly exerted force under her feet and also rushed towards the big man. The moment the big man swung his fist again, Lin En's body slid down, and in the process, she punched the big man's right rib. The big man felt pain and his arm shrank slightly. Like an old snake coiling around a tree, Lin En flipped over and landed on the big man's shoulder. Her legs coiled around the big man's neck, and then with a strangle, the big man's neck was broken. At this moment, the door behind the four of them suddenly closed. More than a dozen people in the same clothes came out of the four doors in front of the ring-shaped field. They were all empty-handed and looked at the four people coldly. These people were men and women, but their entire bodies were emitting a cold aura. They were like emotionless killing weapons. "Hey, Michael, they look cold. Did they just come out of an ice cellar?" "They are Weapon X," Michael said solemnly. "They are all bought children from the lab and then brainwashed them. Then they are strengthened with Potion X. They are proficient in any combat skills and fighting methods." Although they were empty-handed, they were much more threatening than the ordinary enemies Lin En had dealt with before. Just then, the loudspeaker in the ring-shaped field sounded. "Lin En Beeves, you are very special. You are the most special creation since I built the lab. Perhaps you can become the first successful creation of the lab. Now, there are 12 Weapon X from the 5th issue in front of you. Defeat them or be killed by them. Lin En, you can do it." Chen Zhao shouted. Lin En turned around and saw Chen Zhao sitting on the stone bench beside him, waving his arms. Lin En was so angry that her liver hurt. Only Michael came to her side. "Lin En, I will help you share the burden." Lin En shook her head. "No need. Go with them and hide behind them. You can't deal with these Weapon X people." "But..." Michael looked at Lin En hesitantly. Amber came to Chen Zhao's side. "Chen, is this a good idea? What's wrong with it? Why don't you go and help?" Forget it. Amber was also a coward. We are actually conserving our strength. We need to attack at the crucial moment, like when we catch Sterling. Yes, you're right. We are not afraid. We are conserving our strength. Director, can Lin Bifus win? Stellan asked. You have to believe in our work, the director said. Lin En Beeves should have grown to the 6th issue. In just 1 month, she actually jumped 3 levels. I think she will succeed. Finally, the two sides moved. Lin En was as fierce as a cheetah. She was as fast as lightning and as powerful as Mount Tai. The director's eyes lit up as he watched Lin En on the screen. The Weapon X people fell one after another. But the director was not unhappy at all. Instead, he was filled with joy. Perfect, really perfect. Completely different from those weapons. That speed, strength, and computer-like precision. Chapter 823. Crack. Michael and Emil saw that Chen Zhao was actually holding a handful of melon seeds and nibbling on them. The two were dumbfounded. Where did you get the melon seeds? Brother, this is a battlefield, okay? Please be more serious. In their eyes, Chen Zhao was a freak. He didn't know what fear was at all. It was such a thrilling battle. Wasn't he nervous at all? Wasn't he worried at all? One must know that Lin En was their strongest combat power. Once Lin En lost, they would not be able to escape death. Chen, aren't you scared? Well. Chen Zhao touched his chin. If Lin loses, I'll surrender. I won't die for now as their dog. Do you have to say such shameless words so calmly? One had to admit that Lin's battle stance was too beautiful. Every move he made was perfect, and every move was fatal. He didn't use any extra strength. He used the least amount of strength to get the most results. Finally, the last weapon X was killed by Lin. Beautiful. Chen Zhao was the first to applaud. So beautiful. Lin looked at Chen Zhao and his expression gradually turned cold. If you can't show your value, then you don't have to follow us anymore. Cheering for you doesn't count. Lin's eyes were cold. Do you think I'm joking with you? Aren't you? Fuck off. Lin snorted and pointed his dagger at Chen Zhao. Don't appear before me again. Otherwise, even if they don't kill you, I'll kill you. Miss Lin. This has nothing to do with me, right? Emil, why are you like this? Shouldn't we advance and retreat together? Chen Zhao pulled Emil over. We should be tougher. Chen Zhao took 2 steps forward and shouted, do you think we can't leave without you guys? Ah. Chen. Emil was depressed. Chen Zhao had already made the decision for him. Lin and Michael didn't want to talk to Chen Zhao anymore. They turned and walked into a door in front. Chen, what do we do now? Find that old bastard Stellan, of course. Didn't we agree to stuff his head into the toilet? But, can we find that old bastard alive? It doesn't matter. Anyway, the people here are looking for Lin and Michael. No one will care about the 2 of us, so the 2 of us are safer. Is that so? Of course. Then, which of the 4 doors should we go through? I'll count the soldiers and generals. Whoever I count will be the one I count, this. Aren't you being a little too casual? No, I'm proficient in China's metaphysics. This is a very scientific choice. Let's go, this is it. A male followed Chen Zhao into one of the doors. There was a straight path behind the door. Chen Zhao looked up at the surveillance camera in the corner and jumped up to tear it off. Where does this road lead to? I don't know, but there is no one, which means that my guess is correct. Everyone in this laboratory has gone to find Lin En, so it is more dangerous for us to follow Lin En. Don't you think my decision is very wise? I still feel that it's not good for us to be deserters. Just then, the 2 came to the corner of the path. They saw a fat man sitting at the end of the corner. Behind him was a cabin door. When the fat man saw Chen Zhao and a male walk over, he looked at them warily. What are you doing? Chen Zhao punched the fat man's face. Boss. The fat man fainted from the punch and curled up on the ground, unable to get up. What's behind this door? Let's go in and take a look. After the 2 entered the door, they immediately shouted in surprise, this is the laboratory's food storage room. Eat first. Chen Zhao picked up a packaged sausage and tore it open. A male didn't hold back. He had been locked up for a month. In this month, he hadn't had a good meal at all. Suddenly, a male smelled smoke and was shocked when he turned around. Chen Zhao had actually started a fire. What are you doing? Are you going to set it on fire? No, barbecue. Look at all these fresh things. Don't you think barbecue is good? Barbecue in someone's food storage room. A male didn't know how ambitious Chen Zhao was. Damn, these 2 holes, How did they get into our food storage room? The supervisor looked at the monitor and cursed. Fuck, they're barbecuing. All the people in charge of the laboratory stared at Chen Zhao and a male in the food storage room, their eyes spitting fire. I'll send someone to catch them immediately. There's also a large amount of Agent X stored inside, Stellan said. Everyone's expression changed. The supervisor even yelled, "Why would you store Agent X in the food storage room?" Because I don't think anyone would go there. Yes, that was indeed what he thought, but Chen Zhao and a male just had to barge into the food storage room without a reason. But the safe is reinforced. They don't have the password, so it's impossible for them to open it. Chen, come take a look. There's a safe here. Chen Zhao went to a male's side and saw an inlaid safe. Chen Zhao reached out and pulled open the safe's door. Huh, a male said. You seem to absorb Agent X better than me. I couldn't open it for a long time. Chen Zhao and a male saw that the safe was filled with Agent X. All the bottles had markings. There were 3 shelves with hundreds of bottles. Chen Zhao picked one up and poured it into his mouth. Huh, it tastes good. Is this drinkable? A male also picked up a bottle. He wasn't a medical student, but he knew that he couldn't take too much. Moreover, he didn't know the mechanism of the drug at all. A male also opened a bottle, but as soon as his tongue touched a little, he felt as if it was burning. Ah! What's going on? A male tossed the Agent X away and cried out in pain, covering his mouth. What's wrong? Chen Zhao asked, confused. I don't know. I poured a drop into my mouth and it felt like it was burning. How? I think it tastes good. Chen Zhao was confused. Does this Agent X need different people? A male said, annoyed. Burp, Chen Zhao burped and drank all the Agent X. More than 100 bottles went into his stomach. Chapter 8:24. Whoa, the next moment, Chen Zhao vomited. You really can't drink too much. Phew. It'll go to your head too. Emil was completely speechless. You're definitely drunk. Suddenly, footsteps came from outside. Amber's reaction was surprisingly fast. He immediately grabbed their only gun and fired at the door. Chen Zhao's eyes almost popped out. Wow, you're so strong. Chen Zhao glanced at the door. The dozen people outside were all dead. Emil's face was pale. Looking at the dead people, he vomited too. Lin killed so many people on the way here, but you didn't have such a big reaction. That's different. Whoa. Let me vomit some more. Emil vomited all the food he'd just eaten. No. Seeing you vomit, I want to. Whoa, what did you eat just now? Disgusting. You think you're better than me? Whoa. Why are you pulling my clothes? Don't wipe it on my clothes. Emil pulled his clothes over. Looking at the corpses, he vomited again. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, had vomited everything. Let's go. If we don't come, we won't be able to leave when the strengthened weapon X comes. Chen Zhao and Emil each carried a large pile of food in their arms. Then, they set the warehouse on fire. The supervisor and the others who'd been monitoring them were so angry that their noses were crooked. Chen Zhao and Emil ate as they walked. They wandered around like it was their own home. I vomited so much just now. I'm hungry again. Just then, someone appeared in the hallway. It was a woman in leather. She had braids and her head was lowered. Some colorful patterns could be seen on her face. Just then, a pair of bone spurs slowly extended from the woman's fist. It looked like Wolverine's claws. don't you think this woman looks awesome? She doesn't look like a Weapon X. The woman also wore a metal collar around her neck. There was a blinking green light on it. Emil, I think you did well just now. Why don't I give this to you too? No, definitely not. Emil immediately rejected. This woman doesn't look easy. She'll definitely die. Just then, the woman charged at Chen Zhao and Emil. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out from behind, and the woman's head instantly exploded. Chen Zhao and Emil looked up. It was Lin. However, at this moment, Lin also seemed to have suffered serious injuries. His abdomen and thighs were bleeding, and Michael supported Lin. The two of you are still alive. Lin's face was a little pale. Give me something to eat. Chen Zhao and Emil passed the food to Lin. Lin stuffed the food into his mouth with big bites. At this time, the wounds on her body were quickly stopping bleeding, and at the same time, the wounds were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. What astonishing recovery power! Chen Zhao looked at Lin in surprise. Lin's recovery speed was even stronger than his. Lin seemed to be able to replenish his body with food and quickly recover from his injuries. As Lin was eating, he suddenly fell asleep. Sir, Lin Beavers is unconscious. Should we send someone to retrieve him? Stellan asked. No, I want to see her potential. Maybe she can bring me an even bigger surprise. The supervisor's eyes lit up as he looked at Lin in the monitor. He seemed to be anticipating something. Sir, she seems to be, that's right. She should be in her 7th stage of growth. How is that possible? The supervisor looked at Lin excitedly. Definitely. She entered her 7th stage in her normal state, and she might even grow into her 8th stage. Perfect form. Stellan's breathing also became rapid. How many years had it been? How many years had he been in this lab? Was a perfect test subject finally going to appear? Give her some time, the supervisor said. Don't send anyone over for now. Don't interrupt her evolution. Just then, Chen Zhao suddenly felt a wave of pajamas attack him. I feel a little sleepy, Chen Zhao said. Let me rest for a while. Wake me up when we move. Chen, now is not the time to rest. Emil's face darkened. No. I'm very sleepy now, very sleepy. He realized that Chen Zhao did not care about time and place at all. Ever since he woke up, he did not show any signs of panic at all. He had a willful and reckless personality. Chen Zhao sat in the corner and closed his eyes. Chen Zhao also knew that it was not the time to sleep, but he still felt sleepy. Michael and Emil were both very nervous. It was fine if it was Lin. After all, she was unconscious because of her injuries. But Chen Zhao was too much. He was slacking off regardless of time and place. 3 hours later, Lin opened her eyes and took a deep breath. Lin, that's great. You're awake. Michael looked at Lin in surprise. I was really worried that they would attack now. Seems like the supervisor is old and muddle-headed. He actually missed such a good opportunity. How could he disturb me at this time? Lin looked at the surveillance camera. He wants to get a perfect test subject, right? Supervisor. Lin, you're saying that he's giving you time on purpose. That's right. Lin suddenly noticed Chen Zhao on the ground. How come he's asleep too? He said he's tired. Whatever, ignore him. Let's go. It's time to settle the score with them. Wait, Chen, wait for us. Emil knew that the two of them could not leave alive, so he had to wake Chen Zhao up now. Chen, wake up. Hurry and wake up. However, Chen Zhao was sleeping soundly and did not show any signs of waking up. If you want to follow, hurry up. I'm not waiting for anyone. Lin looked down at Emil. But, since he wants to sleep, let him sleep here forever. Lin did not have any sympathy for Chen Zhao. I'll carry him, Emil said. Emil carried Chen Zhao on his back and followed Lin. Thankfully, he had good stamina now. Chen Zhao's weight was not too much of a burden for him. They came to a circular field again, but this one was even bigger than the previous one. It was at least as big as 2 basketball courts. There were many seats around it. As they entered, the door at the back closed again. Just then, the supervisor, Stellan, and the other managers all came to the audience. Chapter 8:25. Lin was no longer the ignorant girl from a year ago. She was no longer the girl who had been sent to the car by her parents and then sent to this lab for no reason. She was no longer naive. Her brain's ability to think was probably in the top 100 in human history. Are these your last words? Lin looked up at the supervisor. The supervisor wasn't angry. He stood up and walked to the fence. Resting his elbows on the fence, he looked relaxed. You have one last test to do. The supervisor took out a remote control and pressed a red button on it. Then, the doors around the ring-shaped arena opened. 10 people walked out. They were all the same as the weakened version of the Wolverine. They all wore leather shirts and pants and had collars around their necks. Do you think they can stop me from killing you? Lin looked at them in disdain. She'd heard that apart from Weapon X, there was another group of more advanced weapons in the lab. There was another wave of even more advanced weapons, collectively known as the Legion. The dogs wearing collars in front of him were the soldiers of the Legion. You can try. The supervisor gestured. Just then, the soldiers started changing. One woman's arms turned into 2 tentacles. Another soldier's back had bone spikes like a porcupine. Some had 4 arms. If they had 2 heads, they would really have 3 heads and 6 arms. Anyway, these soldiers all had deformed limbs. They're all failures. They've grown to the 6th phase, but their limbs have all mutated. This is caused by the failure of their genetic recombination, the supervisor said loudly. But you're different. I don't know what happened to you, but as long as you're unlocked, it'll be the greatest discovery in human history. Humans will also usher in a comprehensive evolution. Right now, Chen Zhao was lying on Emil's back. Emil suddenly turned his head. Chen, you're awake. No. Chen Zhao's eyes were still closed. Emil immediately threw Chen Zhao to the ground. You woke up long ago. How did you know? I felt that your breathing rhythm changed. Emil stared at Chen Zhao angrily. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Actually, I just want to see when you realize I'm awake. Chen Zhao stood up and looked around. Did you drink the X drug? Fuck, will I become like them in the future? Don't worry. According to the old baldy Stellan, our constitution has determined that we can't grow to their level. In 4 years at most, our DNA spirochete will collapse and we'll die. Don't worry. Why should he be at ease? I'd rather become like them than live for another 3 or 4 years. Chen Zhao looked at the soldiers and then at Lin. Lin, quickly deal with these things and then catch those bastards. I want to stuff all their heads into the toilet. I'll take a dump on the toilet first, Emil added. Chen Zhao turned around and glanced at Emil. Prepare for now. In the eyes of the manager and the others, Chen Zhao, Emil, and Michael were like 3 clowns. Impale, kill the 3 of them first. The soldier with bone spikes on his back bent down and aimed the spikes at Chen Zhao's group. Whoosh, whoosh, the spikes on the soldier's back shot at the three. Fuck, he can still shoot. Chen Zhao easily dodged the spikes. Unfortunately, the accuracy is a bit off. I can't hit. Missed again, missed again. Compared to Chen Zhao's easy dodging, Michael and Emil had a much harder time. Chen Zhao grabbed a bone spike that was shooting at him. This seems like a good collection. Chen Zhao's words infuriated Impale. He curled up and started spinning. Like a spinning chainsaw, he charged at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao moved to the side and the spike brushed past him. Chen Zhao conveniently stabbed the bone spike into Impale's head. Back. Impale's head exploded by his own bone spike. He lay on the ground and didn't move. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Chen Zhao to finish off a soldier so easily. Chen Zhao was only in the first stage of the X drug, while every soldier was in the sixth stage. The difference in power was 7 or 8 times. They weren't even on the same level. But Chen Zhao had finished off a soldier so easily. Chen, you killed a monster. Emil's face was also filled with disbelief. This thing is just a joke, Chen Zhao said, rolling his eyes. Is he doing acrobatics? Except for Lin, kill them all. The supervisor felt that his authority was being challenged. Furious, he pointed at Chen Zhao. Lin also attacked at this time. She was as fast as lightning. However, these soldiers were all talented. For example, the soldier whose hands had turned into tentacles. His arms swung with great strength and smashed toward Lin's head. It smashed towards Lin's head. After Lin dodged it, the tentacles smashed onto the ground, directly smashing 2 terrifying marks on the concrete floor. After dodging, Lin quickly counterattacked. A bone spike appeared in her hand and she stabbed it into the tentacle monster's neck. Chen Zhao and Emil went back to watching the show. Michael wanted to help, but his power was limited. He couldn't help at all. Lin, go. Chen, aren't you going to help? I exist as a secret weapon. It's not time for me to attack yet. Leave these small fries to Lin. Michael turned around and glared at Chen Zhao. If you can't help, don't make sarcastic remarks. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao. Then Chen Zhao picked up the phone calmly. Fei Lai, I'm very sorry for disappearing for a day. I'm sorry for making you worry. I promise I won't do it again, but my patient is very troublesome. I might need a few more hours to go home. Yeah. I know. If this patient can't be saved, I'll personally send him to see God. The supervisor turned to Stellan. You didn't take his phone. That's impossible. I checked him. He can't have a phone. Stellan looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. He also didn't know where Chen Zhao had taken out the phone. Chen, why didn't you call the police? Chapter 826. I feel like I really want to do that now. Hold it in. Think about it. You've been locked up for a month. Think about it again. No one talked to you for a month. Hold it in. But I really can't hold it in anymore. Alright, come back to where you were. Emil's face was bitter. Do you have paper? Go ask them for it. Whatever. I'll hold it in. Lin, come on. We can't hold it anymore. Lin had just blown up a man's lower body with a kick. You can't hold it anymore. You don't have a single enemy. You're telling me you can't hold it anymore. Are you going against the air? Chen, don't disturb Lin. Don't distract her. Emil really didn't want anything to happen to Lin because of his physiological needs. He'd already realized that Chen Zhao was purely here to cause trouble. Chen Zhao's greatest contribution was probably just 2 cheers. Really, only 2 cheers. After a total of 20 minutes, Lin finally killed all the soldiers. Lin looked up at the supervisor and the others in the audience. It's your turn now. Are you ready to die? The supervisor and the others were still calm and indifferent. Lin, I'll give you one last chance to consider. Give up resisting. After all, you're our most important test subject. We don't want anything to happen to you. Are you begging for mercy now? Lin felt that the supervisor was at his wit's end. A smile appeared on the supervisor's face. He pressed the second black button on the remote. Just then, a mechanical door opened on the ground, revealing a stone room below. Roar! There was a roar from below. A huge figure jumped up from below. It was a 5-meter-tall monster. It didn't look like a human anymore. Its skin was dark red. Its upper body was huge, especially its arms. They were like hammers. Its lower body was slightly short. It had a round head and no ears. There was a pair of antennae on its forehead. It looked like some kind of sensory organ. It opened its bloody mouth and let out a deafening roar. There was also a metal collar around its neck. Everyone's expression changed. Even Lin took a few steps back. She thought that she had made all the preparations, but when the giant monster appeared, she was still shocked. This monster exuded a dangerous aura. Yes, she felt a dangerous aura. I'm dead. I'm dead this time. How can a human defeat a monster like this? Emil was so scared that his face was drained of blood. Lin finally made a gesture of going all out. This time, she finally felt uncertain and fearful. Let me give you a grand introduction. It's your brother. At least in terms of the structure of the DNA helix, you should be the closest to it, the supervisor said. It's called the Demon King. Lin En suddenly dashed towards the Devil King and stabbed the bone spear in his hand into the Devil King's abdomen. However, her all-out attack was completely unharmed against the Demon King. The bone spear actually broke, but it did not pierce through the Demon King's skin. The Demon King was infuriated by Lin's sudden attack and slapped his claws at Lin. Bang! Lin's entire body flew out and hit the wall heavily. She vomited a mouthful of blood, but her body's functions were rapidly recovering. However, this also made her already weak body much weaker. Lin's mind worked quickly. The strength of this monster was completely above her. This monster was definitely the most powerful creature on land. Even though she was now in the 7th phase and her physical fitness had fully evolved. However, she had no chance of winning in terms of strength. Her body was small, so in terms of speed and agility, she should be able to gain an advantage. Lin's eyes turned and began to look for the weak spot of the monster's body. Eyes. Lin's eyes locked onto the eyes of the Demon King, and her body moved again. She burst out with her fastest speed and rushed towards the Demon King like an arrow leaving the bow. However, the Demon King did not attack as she had planned. Instead, it actively avoided Lin's attack and then punched. Lin then quickly blocked his face with both of his arms and took the Devil King's devastating fist head-on. Without a doubt, Lin was blasted away again. Lin. Michael's face was full of nervousness and worry. He wanted to rush forward to help Lin. However, Lin shouted, "Don't come up. You're no match for this monster. You'll only add to the chaos if you come up. Come on, Lin, come on. Chen, don't add to the chaos, and don't attract the monster's attention." Amber's face was full of despair. The most powerful person on their side had been completely suppressed by this monster. Of course, Lin did not give up. She was still fighting back tenaciously, but the effect was not obvious. If not for her strong recovery ability, she would have been lying on the ground by now. This monster called the Demon King was simply too powerful. Lynn's heart skipped a beat. While the Demon King was chasing her, she began to consciously lead the way in the direction of the supervisor. The Demon King punched the bottom of the auditorium, and half of the auditorium instantly collapsed from the Demon King's punch. The supervisor, Stellan, and the others were all covered in dust. Of course, they had all been strengthened, so they were not injured. "Idiot, you idiot!" The supervisor roared at the Demon King. This was also the reason why he had been pursuing a perfect evolution. The Demon King was indeed powerful. It was far more powerful than the 7th phase. However, its intelligence was too low. It was worlds apart from Lynn, who was also in the 7th phase. It was just a monster, a beast. This was not the perfect evolution that he was pursuing either. What he needed was an individual with perfect intelligence, strength, and self-recovery ability. Not a beast that only knew destruction and killing. The Demon King ignored the supervisor's insults and continued looking for Lynn. Lynn had dodged the Demon King's attack, but she was also affected by the collapse of the auditorium. The Demon King looked at Lynn and raised its huge fist again. Just then, a pebble hit the Demon King's head. Michael yelled, "Come on, scum, come to Grandpa." As expected, the Demon King gave up on Lynn and turned to Qin Zhao's group. Amr was scared out of his wits. "Brother, if you want to die, don't drag us down with you." Qin Zhao pulled Michael away. "Okay, leave the rest to me." Michael and Amr stared at Qin Zhao in disbelief. From the beginning to the end, Qin Zhao had only harassed them verbally. He had not brought any help to their team. Why did he suddenly become brave? Chapter 827. Chen, aren't you scared? Emil's face was filled with disbelief. This wasn't a joke like before. People would really die this time. Plus, they didn't have Lynn's super recovery ability. One punch from this monster was enough to shatter them into pieces. One punch from this monster could shatter 1/3 of the audience. It was enough to know that this monster's power definitely surpassed most creatures on Earth. Lynn stood up again and yelled, "Idiot, go away. Do you want to die?" The supervisor, on the other hand, crossed his arms in front of his chest with a disapproving smile on his face. Anyway, everyone except Lin En was going to die today. Just then, the Demon King had already reached Qin Zhao. Compared to the 5-meter-tall monster, Qin Zhao was simply too small. The Demon King raised his right arm and smashed it down on Qin Zhao's head. Everyone could almost see the result of Qin Zhao being smashed into minced meat. Qin Zhao raised his left arm and pushed up. The ground where Qin Zhao was standing instantly cracked. Like a spider web, the cracks spread out in all directions. The Demon King's punch was very powerful. Qin Zhao roughly felt it. It was about 7 or 8 tons of force. Everyone was shocked by the Demon King's terrifying punch. But what shocked them even more was that Qin Zhao had blocked the Demon King's punch with one hand. How is this possible? Everyone's mind went blank. How was this possible? The manager and the others couldn't think anymore. Lin, Emil, and Michael's brains also went blank. He was only in the first phase of awakening. How could he take the attack of a 7th phase monster? Their strength wasn't equal at all. Their sizes were also very different. But Qin Zhao managed to block the punch. The Demon King crossed his fists and smashed down on Qin Zhao's head again. Qin Zhao waved his left arm and blocked the Demon King's punch again. At the same time, he raised his right arm and smashed it against the Demon King's fists. Bang! The Demon King was sent flying, sweeping across the audience. The spectator seats were completely destroyed. Everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe what they saw. The Demon King was sent flying. What was wrong with this guy? The Demon King stood up again and let out a deafening roar. Chen Zhao's counterattack made him even more furious. The Demon King stomped and charged at Chen Zhao with all his might. At this moment, all the power of the Demon King erupted. He charged at Chen Zhao like a cannonball. Chen Zhao took 2 steps forward and punched with his right arm. The air rubbed against his fist like a red-hot soldering iron. The air in the entire ring-shaped arena was oppressed by this punch. When the Demon King's fist collided with Chen Zhao's, the Demon King's fist shook violently. The Demon King's fist was collapsing like a broken balloon. The Demon King was big, but compared to Chen Zhao's past opponents, he didn't have much of an advantage. It was probably similar to the Minotaur Chen Zhao had encountered in the Crypt Demon's Pyramid. Half of the Demon King's body was festering from Chen Zhao's punch. Everyone looked at this scene in disbelief. Lin stared at Chen Zhao in shock. How could Chen Zhao have such terrifying power? He was only at the first stage of evolution, but even a mutated monster at the 7th stage couldn't compete with his power. Looks like you haven't seen a real Demon King. How dare a brat like him call himself a Demon King? Chen Zhao's face was full of disdain. A fierce glint flashed across the supervisor's eyes. He pressed the remote control in his hand. Suddenly, the metal collar around the Demon King's neck exploded. The terrifying explosion, flames, and shockwaves rushed toward Chen Zhao, engulfing him in an instant. Oh no! Everyone watched in shock as Chen Zhao was engulfed by the explosion. Lin, who was closer, was sent flying by the shockwaves. Michael and Amber lay on the ground, barely avoiding the impact. But when they looked up and the flames were extinguished, they realized that Chen Zhao was still standing in the same spot. The Demon King had become a headless corpse, but Chen Zhao was still standing there, unharmed. Disbelief was written all over everyone's faces. The supervisor clearly couldn't accept this result. He stared at Chen Zhao in a daze. How is it possible? That was 3 kilograms of TNT. How did you? What did 3 kilograms of TNT mean? A grenade with 50 grams of TNT could kill a human within 10 meters. 3 kilograms was equivalent to the power of 60 grenades of the same quality. But this still couldn't kill Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at Stellan. Now it's time to settle the score. Stellan's expression changed in shock. What kind of monster are you? The power that Chen Zhao had displayed was definitely far beyond the limit of Agent X's 8th stage. Even if the Demon King evolved to the 8th stage, he still wouldn't be Chen Zhao's match. The difference in strength was just too great. But this was too unreasonable. The result of Agent X's evolution was the limit that he'd calculated humans could reach. How could Chen Zhao surpass this limit? Chen Zhao walked toward the supervisor and the others. Don't come any closer. The supervisor threatened with the remote control. If you come closer, I'll press the self-destruct button. The explosion might not kill you, but it can bury you here forever. Chen Zhao sneered. Don't fool me. This isn't a movie. Chen Zhao still walked toward them, unmoved. A cold smile appeared on the supervisor's face. He pressed the self-destruct button. Boom, 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 in an instant, the entire base shook violently. Fuck, it's really self-destruct, run. Chen Zhao glanced at the supervisor and the others. Then, he charged forward and started a massacre. Chen Zhao was afraid that the explosion wouldn't really kill them all, so he'd rather kill them himself. Chen, why aren't you running? Hurry up. Amber ran to the exit. Lin and Michael were also sprinting. Chen Zhao quickly caught up to them. Just then, a wave of heat came from the front. Everyone immediately stopped. Chen Zhao took the lead. Follow behind me. Chen Zhao raised his right arm and absorbed the flames from the corridor. Which way? Chen Zhao turned back and asked Lin. Turn left. Lin led the way. Chen Zhao was very fast. Everywhere he passed, the flames from the explosion would disappear mysteriously. A rock fell from above. Chen Zhao went up and pushed the huge rock with both hands, letting everyone pass. After 10 minutes of running and escaping, everyone finally escaped from the underground lab. Chapter 828. At the moment, only Chen Zhao was calm. Lin, Michael, and Emil couldn't calm down at all. Chen Zhao was calm because even if he was buried underground, he could still find a way to get out. After all, he had the spatial ring with a lot of food inside. The others felt like they'd just survived a disaster. That 10-minute journey was too thrilling for them. If Chen Zhao hadn't taken the lead and Lin hadn't pointed the way, they might have all been buried in the lab forever. Okay, it's fun to experience the game with you guys. Goodbye. Game. Is this a game to you? Everyone was speechless, but they couldn't refute him. This disaster really wasn't a threat to Chen Zhao at all. If he wanted to, he could come out without any obstacles. All the Weapon X and the army in the lab, even the huge monster at the end, couldn't threaten Chen Zhao at all. It was no wonder that he had been so calm and collected from the beginning to the end. He had been facing everything with a relaxed attitude. Chen Zhao took 2 steps and stopped. Oh, if you need a doctor, I can give you a discount. The 3 stood there and watched Chen Zhao walk further and further away. They left too. This place wasn't worth their time. The car was still there, as if only an hour had passed. After the 4 left the ruins, one person came to the surroundings. Boss, something happened in the 3rd lab. The 3rd lab? Which location? The one 50 kilometers northeast of Lane. What happened? Can the data be retrieved? It can't be retrieved. The entire lab collapsed and sank into the ground. From the looks of it, it's probably caused by the self-destruct mechanism. Chen Zhao returned home. When Fei Lai saw him, she was unhappy. Fei Lai, sorry for making you worry. Chen Zhao also had a headache. This was completely an accident. He'd thought that Chen Zhao was just a regular client, but he'd been put under house arrest. Do you know how worried I was? And I couldn't get through to your phone. Fei Lai didn't know how many times she'd called Chen Zhao today. In the past, Chen Zhao would always tell her when he disappeared for a day. But this time, he didn't say anything. Moreover, she couldn't get through to him. That was why Fei Lai was so worried. It was natural for him to be angry at Chen Zhao. After much persuasion, Chen Zhao finally calmed her down. But the one who hurt the most was Jerlin. They hadn't seen each other for a day. Little Jerlin was stunned for 3 seconds before she pounced on Chen Zhao. A child's memory was strange to begin with. For children, they remember things for a short period of time. If a person disappeared for a few days, a child's memory would be blurred. Holding Jerlin, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai sat on top of the inner core in the center of the lake. No matter when or where, this was the most comfortable moment for Chen Zhao. Little Jerlin laid on the inner core, wanting to chew on it. Chen Zhao quickly pulled Jerlin up. This inner core was so hard, and its outer shell was as rough as a rock. Little Jerlin's mouth was about to be filled with blood when she moved it up. Jerlin didn't know fear at all. Chen Zhao didn't dare to let her take the risk. In the blink of an eye, the sky darkened. The family of 3 sat together with the baby in Feilai's stomach, enjoying this peaceful moment. The red glow shone on the west wind, and the river of stars embraced the bright moon. The 3 didn't return to the shore until the sky darkened. By now, the underlings had already prepared dinner. Chen Zhao had already started feeding Jerlin some millet porridge. Of course, it was mainly milk powder. A child's digestive system was weaker. It couldn't digest more complicated food. This was a process that needed adaptation. The change of food was also from milk powder to millet porridge or rice paste, and then to lean meat porridge. In about half a year to a year, the child could be weaned. Some children weren't completely weaned at 4 or 5 years old. This wasn't good for them. It was better to feed the child some mixed food as early as possible. It was easier when they were weaned. Little Jerlin held a bowl as big as her face. As she drank the porridge, it flowed to the sides. Then Bramble and Bramble started licking the porridge on the ground. After finishing the bowl, Jerlin looked like she'd just taken a shower. Porridge flowed all over her body. Chen Zhao and Feilai didn't feed her. They mainly wanted to train Jerlin's independence. However, Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered to bathe her, because she still had to crawl on the ground and go into the water. Chen Zhao would only bathe her when she was about to sleep. As long as she was within Chen Zhao's territory, Jerlin was safe. The territory was large, but Chen Zhao wasn't worried that she would get lost. The entire territory was filled with his spies. Jerlin couldn't get lost. Chen, the grapes are ripe. Can we use them to make wine now? Feilai asked. Chen Zhao smiled wryly. Feilai had almost forgotten about the grape trees, but she'd actually remembered them again. After the grapes were planted, Feilai rarely took care of the vines. It was almost always the inferior demons taking care of the vines. She didn't expect to remember it again at this moment. Feilai, the grapes from a few years ago don't have enough sugar, Chen Zhao said. I'm afraid we can't use them to make wine. But I think they're sweet. Sweet? Chen Zhao wasn't sure either. After all, Mirror Lake was full of spiritual energy. It was completely different from other places. After dinner, Chen Zhao and Feilai went to the vineyard in the backyard. Chen Zhao plucked a grape and put it in his mouth. So sweet, so juicy. The sweet and meaty taste was much better than the grapes he'd eaten before. Moreover, these were all natural grapes, without any chemical fertilizers, nor any pesticides or the like. However, the grapes grew exceptionally well. Each grape was huge and plump. Okay. Chen Zhao nodded. Then how do we make wine? Feilai asked. Let the inferior demons harvest the grapes first, Chen Zhao said. Their vineyard wasn't big. 2 acres of vines had actually produced a ton of grapes. Feilai, pick some and give them to our friends, Chen Zhao said. Oh, okay. Just then, Princess came to a basket of grapes that the inferior demons had picked. She grabbed a bunch of grapes and stuffed them into her mouth. Oh, Princess really liked the taste. Usually, Chen Zhao and Feilai wouldn't let her come. Today, she finally got to eat grapes as she wished. King Kong also liked the taste. He grabbed a bunch of grapes with his big hand. There was only a ton of grapes. It wasn't enough for the 2 of them. Stop eating, Chen Zhao yelled. If you eat any more, there won't be enough wine. Do you want to drink wine? Chen Zhao didn't stop his pets from drinking. Chapter 830. Old Turtle, don't drink too much. I'm going to give this to someone. Old Turtle got bored after 2 sips. The wine was too bland for him. Old Turtle glanced at Chen Zhao. Your spiritual power seems to be reaching ultimate transformation. What's ultimate transformation? Chen Zhao asked, confused. The only cultivation method he'd come across was the Qingyi manual. Many professional terms were only known from there. However, it didn't mention ultimate transformation. Have you ever heard of the saying, "No brings you happiness"? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. This saying only appeared many years later than me, but I've heard of it too, Old Turtle said. Old Turtle said, this is similar to the theory of ultimate transformation. When things develop to the extreme, they will change. I still don't understand what ultimate transformation has to do with me. A person is a vessel. The amount of spiritual power contained in the body is like water. There is a limit. Therefore, if you want to continue on the path of cultivation, you have to transform it. This is the so-called extreme transformation. Then what does ultimate transformation do? Chen Zhao asked. The ultimate transformation is similar to the demon clan's transformation. The demon clan transforms from their original species into a human form and gains intelligence. As for the ultimate transformation of you humans, I don't know the specific process, but this ultimate transformation is all about the word transformation. Transformation. How to transform? Chen Zhao listened with a blank expression. What was transformation? After leaving the river map, Chen Zhao had been lying in the middle of the lake, looking up at the sky. Old Turtle's words kept echoing in his mind. Ultimate transformation, ultimate transformation. The key was transformation. Chen Zhao didn't return to the shore until Fei Lai called him to finish eating. Chen, why did you suddenly become so gloomy after finishing your work? Do you have something on your mind? It's not a big deal, Chen Zhao said. I'm just confused about magic. Fei Lai couldn't help him at all. Chen Zhao didn't want to continue talking about it. After all, Fei Lai might not understand if he said too much. Chen, why don't we go out to the sea to relax? Fei Lai asked. Sure. Chen Zhao agreed without hesitation. Their yacht, Fei Lai, had only been properly used once since they bought it. Fei Lai hadn't taken a boat out to sea yet. She wanted to take this opportunity to have some fun. When we come back, our wine will be ready. Fei Lai was still thinking about the wine. Fei Lai was an impatient person. If she stayed at home, she wouldn't be able to control herself. She was afraid that she would open the lid of the wooden barrels before the time was up. Therefore, it was better to go out and hide for a few days. Besides, now that she was pregnant, it was quite boring to stay at home all day. He might as well take this opportunity to go out to sea and play for a while. Roar! Princess was already beside them. Hearing their conversation, she immediately leaned on the table and pointed at herself. It also wanted to go out to the sea to play, and the other pets also came over. Although the surface area of Mirror Lake was large, they had basically dug all the land that needed to be dug these days. They were also very eager to have the opportunity to go out to sea to play. Chen, is this a treasure map? Fei Lai took out the scroll. Chen Zhao was stunned. That day, he'd been worried that something was wrong with it and that it would be dangerous for Jerlin, so he'd put the metal objects and scroll on the shelf. He didn't think that he'd avoided Jerlin and let Fei Lai take it. I don't know what it is either. A friend gave it to me. It seems to be a nautical map, Fei Lai said. Should we go out to sea according to it? Okay. Chen Zhao nodded with a bitter smile. Gaia, did you receive the money? Yes, Chen. Thank you. Oh, I plan to go out to sea with Fei Lai in a few days. Help me look after the association. No problem. He'd asked Risvar to help him handle the gold they'd found last time. Risvar's connections were all in Europe, not America. Therefore, he was the most suitable person to handle the gold. Plus, he only took a nominal 5% commission. In the end, the gold was sold for a total of $65 million. According to the agreement between him and Gaia received $26 million. No one would complain about having too much money. Gaia was obviously happy to receive the money. Chen Zhao was also happy. After all, $39 million was more than his current net worth. Now, Chen Zhao had more than $50 million in his bank. As soon as he hung up, an unfamiliar call came in. "Hello, are you Zhao?" "Mr. Chen." "Yes, I am." "Who's this?" "Hello, I'm the account manager of Citibank. My name is Andrews." "Liar." Chen Zhao's first reaction was that this was a liar. "I'm not interested in investing or buying stocks," Chen Zhao said directly. "Mr. Chen, I'm not asking you to invest or buy stocks. I'm the account manager that Citibank specially assigned to you. I'll help you manage your account." "Manage my account? How are you going to manage my account? Do I need to give you my password?" "No need. In fact, as long as you agree on the phone and admit that I'm your account manager, I can help you transfer your cash. I don't need your password." "Wait. How do I know that you won't transfer my money away if I agree to be your account manager?" "Don't worry. Any transfer of funds in your account will be sent to you. If it's not done by you, the bank will communicate and confirm with you manually if it's more than $100,000. This seems to be more troublesome. I don't know why you're here. First of all, because of your cash limit, you can enjoy the highest interest from our bank. Second, if you need to make large purchases, I can negotiate for you. I believe we can get the best benefits for you." Chen Zhao thought about it. "Do I need to pay you?" "I'm your service staff, not your employee, so you don't need to pay me." "I still don't understand your main job." "Simply put, I'm your personal accountant." Chen Zhao couldn't help but hesitate. He knew his current assets. Houses, villas, cars, and savings in the bank. He didn't really need a personal accountant. Chapter 831. Chen Zhao thought about it. He wasn't sure of the person's identity yet. He couldn't just give the address to the person. "I'm planning to go on vacation with my family the day after tomorrow," Chen Zhao said. "So I only have tomorrow. Then tomorrow afternoon. Is that okay?" "Sure." Chen Zhao checked the Citibank branches in Los Angeles. There were quite a few branches, but the headquarters wasn't in Los Angeles. Instead, it was in Irvine, southeast of Los Angeles. Irvine was one of the largest planned urban communities in America. It was also the ultimate goal of most people in Los Angeles. The average family income in Irvine was around $100,000. It was easy to imagine the standard of living and wealth of Irvine. The next day, Chen Zhao drove to Irvine. Irvine had a population of 170,000. Asians made up 30% of the population. Asians with yellow skin and black eyes could be seen everywhere. Chen Zhao drove for an entire hour before reaching Irvine. Suddenly, a white Samoyed appeared on the side of the road. Chen Zhao slammed on the brakes. He almost killed the Samoyed. Scared out of its wits, it stared at the front of the car blankly. Chen Zhao got out of the car in anger. He pulled the dog back and looked around. Just then, a woman in high heels and a ponytail walked over quickly. "Sir, this is my dog." Chen Zhao glanced at the Samoyed and then at the woman. "You know that large dogs have to be leashed on the road, right? You know that I almost pretended to be dead just now, right?" "Sir." "I'm sorry." Facing Chen Zhao's overbearing aura and high-pitched voice, the woman was somewhat submissive. Only then did Chen Zhao return the samyet to the woman. Be careful. After glancing at the woman, Chen Zhao drove away. When he arrived outside the headquarters of the Citibank branch, the building gave Chen Zhao a very bad feeling. Just as he was about to enter, a figure suddenly fell from the sky. She fell a dozen meters away, smashing into pieces on the spot. Chen Zhao frowned. Judging from the corpse, it should be a female employee. Soon, police cars arrived and cordoned off the corpse. Just then, Andrews walked out of the bank and quickly found Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, hello. I'm Andrews. This is my name card. Before meeting Chen Zhao, Andrews had already seen Chen Zhao's photo and a lot of information. Of course, Andrews could only obtain superficial information. The professor from UCLA did not understand why this professor from UCLA had such a huge fortune. What was even more strange was that with so much wealth, no one from the tax bureau came to investigate. After confirming Andrews's identity, Chen Zhao followed him to the office. Mr. Chen, let me explain my duties and responsibilities to you first. Chen Zhao listened to Andrew's explanation in detail, but he might not understand everything. However, Andrews would also take the initiative to explain the key points in more detail. Mainly, I'm your personal financial butler. Other than helping Mr. Chen manage your bank account, I can also help you with some investments. Forget about financial investments. I don't really trust finance. Chen Zhao thought for a moment. Oh, can you help me find out the price of land in Mountain Town? Mr. Chen, you want to buy land? I have about 3 hectares of land in Mountain Town, but I hope that my land can be expanded, so I plan to buy the surrounding land. No problem. I'll help you find out today. Mr. Chen, how much can I buy it for? Look at the land area and price first. Back then, Chen Zhao had used $500,000 to buy Mirror Lake and the surrounding area. It was a great deal, but Chen Zhao did not think that he could do it again. Andrews was an experienced financial expert and accountant. After finishing the procedures, Chen Zhao and Andrews sat down and started chatting. Oh, what's with the woman who jumped off the building? Chen Zhao asked curiously. I don't know what happened. She jumped off the building for no reason. It's the 2nd this month. Not a mental illness. Or is it because of some unforeseen circumstances in your family? I don't think so. Andrews shook his head. The female employee just jumped off the building. She's only been here for half a year. She doesn't usually play stocks. I don't know about her family and feelings, but I don't think such a cheerful and optimistic girl would jump off the building because of a family accident. When Chen Zhao entered the building, he felt a pressing energy. Chen Zhao suspected that there were evil spirits in the building. But until now, Chen Zhao had not seen anything supernatural. It was just a feeling. Perhaps it was because it was daytime and normal evil spirits could not appear. Even evil spirits would be much less active. Mr. Chen, let me walk you out. Chen Zhao nodded. When he walked out with Andrews, there was a sudden commotion. Suddenly, there was a loud noise. A woman with a sinister expression was holding a pen and stabbing people everywhere. Kill you. Kill you. I'm going to kill you. When the woman saw Chen Zhao and Andrews, she charged at them with the pen. Don't tell me you dumped this woman. Chen Zhao teased. Mr. Chen, let's go. She's crazy. Andrews saw that the woman was clearly delirious. Chen Zhao was also his big client. He did not want Chen Zhao to get hurt here. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the woman's wrist. The woman's expression was still hideous. She kept struggling, trying to attack Chen Zhao. With a trace of magic, Chen Zhao poked the woman's forehead lightly. The woman immediately fell to the ground and lost consciousness. The security guard came over and pulled the woman out. Mr. Chen, this is. She was not possessed. She had been bewitched. Chen Zhao did not know if it was an evil spirit or evil spirit. It was also possible that a witch had done it. This building is so unlucky, Chen Zhao said, shaking his head. You should find a spiritualist to disperse the evil aura here. What nonsense are you talking about? A woman's voice came from behind. Chen Zhao turned around and realized that it was the woman he had met on the road today. At the moment, the woman was holding the samyed. It's you. The woman was surprised to see Chen Zhao here. Chen Zhao looked at the woman. If you want to listen, then listen. If not, then forget it. Since it had nothing to do with him, Chen Zhao only reminded her. He did not plan on arguing with the woman until his face turned red. Miss Amira, I think that Mr. Chen is right. Our bank's HQ building is really strange. Last night, the security guard said that he heard a scary sound. Chapter 832. The two accidents that had happened in the bank today gave Amira a headache. The first female employee's suicide had already appeared on the news. The second female employee had gone crazy in the office and attacked a colleague, but Amira had suppressed it. Now, the whole bank was talking about some strange things. Some employees secretly said that there was an evil spirit in the bank headquarters. Amira did not believe in such things. But now, the situation was getting out of control. Amira's father was a major shareholder of Citibank, which was why she could be the general manager of the LA branch. If she couldn't handle this matter beautifully, it would have a huge impact on her status. Just then, a program appeared on the television in front of Amelia. In the program, a man who claimed to be a spiritualist was talking big. Do you know the abandoned classroom building of UCLA? The school tried to demolish the abandoned school building many times, but they all failed. Every time, the construction workers would die accidentally, and most of the time, they died mysteriously. Later, the school invited me. I discovered that there was a terrifying evil spirit in the abandoned UCLA school building. Then, I started a huge battle with that evil spirit and finally killed it. The host said, Mr. Church, do you have any evidence for what you said? Ordinary people can't see evil spirits. For example, there's a spirit behind you. Of course, you don't have to be afraid. It's a kind old granny. Her gaze is very gentle. She wears a floral dress and holds a walking stick. She should be your guardian spirit. The host cried out in shock, Mr. Turgis, is that true? You said there's an old granny beside me. Yes, of course it's true. That's my grandmother. She passed away the year I graduated from university. She's always been beside me. Amira thought for a moment and picked up a phone. Help me find someone. His name is Church. He claims to be a spiritualist. Feilai, we should go, Chen Zhao said. Feilai was still dragging her feet. Any woman would drag their feet when they went out. As a pregnant woman, Feilai had not touched cosmetics in a long time. However, she still continued to use some natural skincare products. Chen, do I look better in this or this? Feilai was holding two pieces of clothing. One was a white printed t-shirt, and the other was a gray off-the-shoulder t-shirt. This one is off the shoulder, Chen Zhao said. When a woman asks you, which one looks good on me, you can't say, you look good in all of them. Because women would think that you didn't think about it seriously and that your answer was too perfunctory. They didn't want a vague answer, but a definite one. Alright then, I'll wear this white printed t-shirt. Why? If you don't respect my answer, why do you want me to answer this question? Because of your taste, I feel that the opposite of your choice must be a better choice. Feilai, you're hurting me. Alright, have you brought everything you need? Yes, Chen Zhao said. We can go now. Chen Zhao, Feilai, Jerlin, and the entire family boarded Feilai. Even Blackie was no exception. Today was a family vacation. No one could be absent. Let's go. Beep, beep, in one of the submarines, a sonar detector made a regular sound. Canoris was wearing an earpiece, listening to the feedback from the sonar. Just then, another voice came from the earpiece. Canoris, the whales are moving southwest. Canoris stretched and said to the submarine's pilot, move southwest. After 30 minutes of movement, a few more dots appeared on the sonar detector. Such intoxicating and beautiful notes. Canoris enjoyed the whales singing in her earpiece. Just then, the submarine slowly approached the whales. Through the glass boat, Canoris looked at the rulers of the ocean in the distance. Those huge black and white beasts were the biggest predators in the ocean. Killer whales were a very special species. Although they were predators, they were full of friendliness and kindness towards humans. Killer whales were also called killer whales, but there had never been cases of wild killer whales attacking humans. Some experts had done research and made some speculations. They thought that millions of years ago, killer whales were very likely to have a master and pet relationship with the primitive people of that era, just like how humans and dogs were now. This DNA sequence had been passed down to this day, which was why killer whales were so close to humans. For now, this was just a hypothesis. Of course, killer whales were the smartest creatures in the ocean. There was no doubt about that. At the same time, killer whales were not actually whales. They should be considered dolphins. Most dolphins in the ocean were very close to humans. Canoris and her team members were all from the marine biology research team. Their team's main research target was killer whales. They chased killer whales in the 7 oceans and conducted scientific research on them. Of course, they were also the most determined marine animal protectors. Hey, why did their singing stop? Why did the whales disperse? They seem to be frightened, the pilot said. You must be joking. This is a school of killer whales, the overlords of the sea. If it was a single killer whale, it might be attacked by a school of sharks. But a school of killer whales? No creature can threaten them. Just then, a huge black shadow swam past the submarine. The pilot and Canoris were dumbfounded. What was that? What was that? Canoris. The radar shows that there's a huge object about 67 meters long passing by you. Did you notice what it was? Canoris looked outside the window in a daze. The giant beast passed by the submarine but did not attack them. She could not say a word. It was as if saying anything in the submarine would attract the attention of the giant beast. Canoris' mind was blank. What was that? What was that? How could there be such a giant in the ocean? The submarine she was on was 10 meters long. But compared to this giant beast, it was like the difference between an adult and a baby. Chapter 833. Just then, Canoris had already seen the giant beast clearly. Killer whale. It was a killer whale. But how could a killer whale be so big? This wasn't a killer whale at all. It was a super big monster. The biggest creature known to humans was the blue whale. The largest recorded blue whale was 35 meters long and weighed 250 tons. But compared to this killer whale, it was like the difference between Guoxiaoxi and Yao Ming. Too big. It was really too big. If one did not observe it closely, they would not be able to imagine how big this killer whale was. What is that? Stan asked blankly. Chase it, chase it. Canoris seemed to be possessed. Canoris. This is too dangerous. We still don't know if it's a killer whale or not. Listen to me and chase it. As long as we take a picture of this super monster, do we still need to worry about research funding? Alright. But our submarine might not be able to catch up to it. Full speed ahead. Full power. Canoris, it's better to be careful. Our submarine has been used for 20 years. No problem. Chase it. The pilot, Stan, had no choice but to listen to Canoris's orders. Canoris, where are you going? The voice of their leader, Professor Ruffalo, came from the communicator again. Professor Ruffalo, we're tracking that killer whale, that super monster. What? You said that it's a killer whale. Yes, I saw it. A killer whale, a super killer whale. Impossible. Killer whales can't be that big. I saw it. Stan saw it too. We're going to track that killer whale now. After that, the speed of the submarine suddenly slowed down. What's going on? Why did it slow down? Oh no. The engine is off. Stan tried to restart the engine, but it failed. Their research submarine had been in service for too long. It had already been 20 years. But because of the research funding, they had no money to replace it. He could only repair the submarine continuously, and it took him 20 years to do so. The water pressure system seems to have stopped working. We're sinking, Stan said. Oh no, this area is at least 300 meters deep. If we sink, we won't even be able to save us. Let me try and see if I can restart the water pressure system. Stan tried and failed again. Damn it, why did it break down at this time? As the submarine continued to sink, the two of them could only put on their diving suits and plan to dive out. He had to leave the submarine as soon as possible while the water was not too deep. Canoris, when you enter the sea later, take a deep breath first. It's already very deep here, you can't open your mouth. Alright, I got it. Canoris nodded. I'll go out first, you follow me. Stan went out from the hatch first. The huge water pressure forced him to swim upstream. Because he didn't have any diving equipment and was only wearing a diving suit, he couldn't hesitate at all. Canoris got out of the hatch too, but the moment she entered the sea, the huge water pressure made her body lose its momentum. Rumble, rumble, Canoris opened her mouth subconsciously, and seawater poured into her mouth in an instant. Her body was sinking rapidly too. Just as she was losing consciousness, a black shadow shrouded her from below. Immediately after, Canoris felt her body coming into contact with a solid and huge shell, and the water pressure kept decreasing. It's that thing. Canoris's face was full of shock, and it soon surpassed Stan's. Stan was also shocked by the black shadow that suddenly caught up from below. Then he saw that Canoris was on the back of the huge beast. Canoris finally rushed out of the water, but the huge beast had already left. Even on the surface of the water, it only revealed a little bit. Stan also surfaced and looked at Canoris. Canoris, are you alright? Cough, cough. I'm fine. Where's that big guy? I saw it return to the depths of the sea again. I want to find it, I have to find it. Canoris, you know that it might not be a good thing for it if we continue to search for it, Stan said. Do you think I'll hurt it? No, we're both members of the Marine Animal Protection Organization, Stan said. Of course I believe that you won't hurt it, but if the news gets out, do you know what will happen to those whaling ships? He was a more rational person, so he thought more clearly. How much would such a huge beast be worth to whaling ships? Whaling ships nowadays didn't just hunt for whale meat. Many whaling ships hunted all kinds of whales and dolphins to make them into specimens. A killer whale specimen could be sold for $300,000 to $400,000. That was much more valuable than just selling whale meat. But if it was such a super huge beast, maybe there was only one of it in the ocean, then the price could be 10 times, 20 times, or even 100 times. Almost no whaling ship would miss such a huge profit. Canoris bit her lower lip. I just want to say thank you to it. Hearing Stan's words, Canoris also understood this. They were a marine animal research team. Apart from tracking marine animals, they also conducted research. Sometimes, they also had to fight with some whaling ships. The research ship had already discovered the two of them. It approached and pulled them onto the ship. The ocean. The boundless ocean. For most of their family members, this was something they'd never felt before. Even Walter, Black Ma, and White Ma often went to Angel Beach to play. But it was their first time actually going out to sea. Walter excitedly ran along the edge of the yacht, from the bow to the stern, and then from the bottom to the top. When Jerlyn was in San Francisco, she'd gone out to sea with Chen Zhao once. She'd also gone out to sea for Steven's movie celebration party. But it was at night and she'd been sleeping in the cabin. She also liked to go out to sea. In Chen Zhao's arms, she pointed excitedly to the left and right. Chen Zhao put a sun hat on her head. He didn't want Jerlyn to get tanned. It was better to make her fair and pretty. Chen, come quickly. I caught a fish, but I can't pull it up. Come quickly. Chen Zhao saw that Fei Lai was pulling on the fishing rod. It was already bent into a full moon. Chapter 834. Judging from the strength, the fish was more than 50 kilograms. However, a 50-kilogram fish could pull at least 150 kilograms in the water. Fei Lai's belly wasn't big and her body was strong. Otherwise, she might even be dragged into the water. After taking the fishing rod, Chen Zhao pulled the fish up. The fishing rod was very tough. It could even pull up a 200-kilogram tuna, let alone a 50-kilogram fish. Chen, what fish is this? Chen Zhao didn't know either. The fish had a green back and a white belly. It was around 1 meter long and its mouth could fit a fist. Without Chen Zhao's help, Fei Lai wouldn't be able to pull it up by herself. We'll eat this fish for lunch. Fei Lai's face was flushed. She was very proud of her achievement. Even though Chen Zhao had pulled the fish up in the end, she felt that it was her achievement. The greatest enjoyment of sea fishing was actually the process of fighting with the big fish. However, Fei Lai clearly couldn't enjoy this right now. The underlings set up the barbecue rack. The three demons had to work together to pick up the fish. After cleaning it, they started to grill it. These underlings' cooking skills were top-notch. To them, if they didn't know how to cook, they were worthless. Fei Lai, I plan to make our land bigger. Isn't our land big enough? It's still a bit small, Chen Zhao said. In the future, we'll plant more vines and raise a few horses. Our children will be able to ride horses in our pastures and forests. Also, when our other children grow up, they'll have children too. If we don't have a big enough space, we won't be able to chase them out into the wild. You can buy it if you have the money. Fei Lai maintained a medium speed. They were here to have fun, not to rush. The noon sun was too strong. Chen Zhao, Fei Lai, and Jerlyn lay in a shaded cabin. The two sides of the cabin were empty. There was only a 1-meter-tall glass fence. They could enjoy the sea breeze and block the sun at the same time. Just then, two ships appeared in the distance. They were shooting at each other with water guns. What are they doing? Just then, an underling ran in. Master, Mistress, we've received a request for help from a research ship. They want to borrow some fuel. Is it that ship over there? Chen Zhao pointed in the distance. One of the ships looked like a research ship. Chen Zhao had good eyesight. Even though they were a nautical mile apart, he could still see clearly. The other one should be a fishing boat. There were many fishing tools on the boat. He just didn't understand why they were fighting. Usually, when there was a dispute at sea, as long as it wasn't a military conflict, it would basically be shooting each other with water guns. The water gun on the boat was not the kind used to clean cars. The water pressure from the water gun on the boat was estimated to be 5 MPa. If it hit a person, it could even kill them. There was a humanitarian rule at sea. If a distress signal was sent out on the sea, it would usually be helped if possible. For example, borrowing fuel. Even if he didn't borrow it, he wouldn't be breaking the law. However, they would still be criticized by the public. So, since they wanted to borrow it from him, then let them borrow it. Let's wait for them to finish their water fight, then we'll go over. Chen Zhao didn't want to be affected by them. Whether it was the fishing boat or the research ship, they were at most $1 or $2 million. His boat was dozens of times larger than theirs. He didn't want their water fight to affect his boat and cause it to be damaged. Even though the research ship ran out of fuel, it was still able to fight with the fishing boat without any hesitation. The two sides fought for more than an hour before the fishing boat finally left. Only then did Chen Zhao have the boat approach the research ship. Carrying little Jerlin, Chen Zhao boarded the research ship with Fei Lai. There were a dozen people on the research ship. The leader was a white-bearded old man. "Hello, I'm Ruffalo. These are my team members," Professor Ruffalo said. "Hello, I'm Chen Zhao. This is my girlfriend and daughter." Chen Zhao shook hands with Ruffalo. "How much fuel do you need? If possible, it's best if you can lend us a ton." "We need enough fuel to go to Los Angeles," Professor Ruffalo said. "We'll pay you in cash." "Sure." The request wasn't too much. Plus, Chen Zhao had prepared enough fuel. "By the way, why did you fight with that fishing boat?" Fei Lai asked. "They're a whaling ship," Professor Ruffalo said. "We were tracking a pod of whales, but they attacked the pod directly, so we turned on the water cannon and shot them so that they couldn't attack the pod." At this moment, a person suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone immediately panicked and hurriedly went to support that person. "Stan, what's wrong?" "Lay him down. Don't support him. He seems to have an acute pneumothorax," Chen Zhao said. "Was he hit when you were fighting? Or did he dive before?" Acute pneumothorax was often caused by a momentary imbalance in air pressure. Air would enter the chest cavity and cause air to accumulate. It could also be caused by a burst alveolus in the lungs. If it was only a minor symptom, it could recover after a few days of rest. If it was serious, it could be life-threatening. Stan had already spat out blood, which meant that his injuries were more serious. "Do you have oxygen tanks on the boat?" "Give him oxygen," Fei Lai said. She also knew how to deal with this situation quickly. "Do you have syringes and needles on the boat?" "The bigger, the better." Everyone looked at each other. Professor Ruffalo shook his head. "No." "Sir, can you save Stan?" "Go to my cabin and get my toolbox," Chen Zhao said. "I have needles." Fei Lai looked at her boat and shouted, "King Kong, bring Chen's toolbox." Hearing Fei Lai's voice, King Kong immediately took the toolbox and jumped 7 or 8 meters, landing on the deck of the research boat. Everyone let out a cry of surprise as they looked at the huge mountain gorilla in disbelief. "Go back to the boat. Don't scare them." Fei Lai patted King Kong's head. "Whoa, whoa!" King Kong jumped again and landed on Fei Lai. "Is that your pet?" Professor Ruffalo stared at the gorilla in disbelief. Only then did he realize that King Kong wasn't the only one on Chen Zhao's boat. There were also many pets, big and small. Chapter 835. Your entire ship is filled with beasts. Aren't you afraid of danger? Ruffalo asked, confused. As long as you treat them sincerely, they'll treat you like family, Feilai said. Chen Zhao took out a needle and stabbed it hard under Stan's second rib. People with acute pneumothorax mainly had air in their lungs, so they had to use needles to expel it. Normal needles couldn't expel air. Syringes and needles could expel air directly. To Chen Zhao, this kind of treatment was only a small surgery. Even Feilai probably knew how to do it. Stan's chest gradually relaxed and his breathing became much smoother. He's fine now, Chen Zhao said. This is an anti-inflammatory medicine. If he has a high fever, give him 2 pills. He'll be fine after a night's sleep. Mr. Chen, Miss Feilai, thank you, Professor Ruffalo said gratefully. The others on the ship also thanked Chen Zhao and Feilai. We'll have a party on the sea. Are you interested? Join us. Aren't you going to LA? LA is right there, Professor Ruffalo said, smiling. It won't run away. If you leave, I don't know when I'll see you again. Okay then, kids, go and prepare food. Let us treat Mr. Chen and Miss Feilai well. Professor Ruffalo looked at Feilai. Can I invite your kids to join us? Are you sure you won't scare your team? Chen Zhao asked. They're a group of brave young people and they really like animals. Okay then. Chen Zhao looked at Feilai. You guys come over. Be careful. Don't fall into the sea. Just then, the animals on Feilai came out one after another. The people on the research ship were shocked to see such a large group of people. They couldn't help but admire Chen Zhao and Feilai for daring to raise so many fierce beasts. What breed is this red lizard? It's so big. Don't go over. I'm afraid it'll swallow you whole. Chen Zhao looked at the team members who were interested in abitos. Don't be afraid. It's called abitos. It doesn't eat people. Mr. Chen, is this lizard a Komodo dragon? Professor Ruffalo asked in surprise. Yes, I bought it from a pet store. I heard that it was a genetic mutation. I didn't expect it to grow so big. Mr. Chen, can you lend it to me? I want to study it, Professor Ruffalo, your request is too much. To me, they are all my children. I will not lend my children to others for research, Ruffalo said with a smile. Sorry. Professor Ruffalo was also a little embarrassed. This request was indeed too much. However, after doing research for so many years, he had come into contact with some creatures with mutated genes. In fact, the so-called research was basically meaningless. After all, most mutations were DNA mutations. Humans didn't even understand their own DNA, so how could they understand other organisms? Soon, the people on the ship realized that Chen Zhao's pets didn't attack people at all. For example, the princess looked so scary. But it actually took a can of beer and nestled at the bow, enjoying the sea breeze and drinking beer. That kind of posture, that kind of expression, it was really too much like a person. Feilai took a glass of juice and was chatting with Canoris and a few other female team members. Canoris, what's the most magical thing you've experienced? You might not believe it, but the most magical thing I've experienced is being saved by a killer whale, and it happened today. This killer whale might be even bigger than your yacht. It's so magical. I want to find it and thank it, Canoris said. Canoris said, you might never be able to imagine how beautiful that scene was. That was the most beautiful killer whale I've ever seen. It was like the king of the sea, patrolling its territory. Perhaps to it, I was just a pitiful little worm, but to me, it was life and death. Air. Phalai didn't know what to say. She immediately guessed that the one who saved Canoris was Amon. Only Amon had such a huge body in the world. However, Amon was indeed beautiful. It was mainly because of its huge body that brought about a different kind of beauty. Just then, a man walked over. "Miss Phalai, can I buy you a drink?" "Sorry, I can't drink." "Miss Phalai, is that Asian not allowing you to drink?" "You don't have to control yourself. A pretty girl like you should have more freedom." "Oh, if that Asian can't satisfy you in that area, you can come and find me." Phalai's expression changed immediately. She splashed the juice in her hand at the man's face. "What are you doing?" The man was furious and raised his hand to fight back. But as soon as he raised his hand, it was grabbed. The man turned around and saw a gloomy-faced Chen Zhao standing behind him. He wanted to pull his hand back, but Chen Zhao was stronger. "Let go of me." Chen Zhao tossed the man into the sea. "Phalai, let's go." "Mr. Chen, what's wrong?" Professor Ruffalo hurried over. "Go ask your people," Chen Zhao said, his face green. Chen Zhao and Phalai were both unhappy. They brought their family back to the boat. Professor Ruffalo looked at the rescued team member with a green face. "Benedict, why are you doing this?" He'd already learned the whole story from Canoris and the others. Usually, Benedict didn't behave himself and would occasionally have some conflicts with the female team members. He turned a blind eye to it and pretended that nothing had happened. But now, he was insulting another woman and even wanted to hit her. This was too much. "I just wanted to treat that woman to a drink," Benedict said indifferently. "She actually splashed juice at me. Don't you know that Miss Phalai is pregnant and can't drink?" Canoris said coldly. She agreed because she hated this teammate before her to the extreme. He was extremely disrespectful to women. The friendly atmosphere of the party had been completely ruined by him. "I didn't do anything. That barbarian just threw me into the sea." "Benedict, you're fired," Professor Ruffalo said coldly. "When you reach the shore, leave by yourself." He was completely disappointed in Benedict. "Professor, it's just a small accident. I didn't do anything wrong." "Why are you firing me?" "Because your behavior disgusts me," Professor Ruffalo said in disgust. Chapter 836. "Professor, that bastard is not a good person." When he got off the ship just now, his eyes were quite unfriendly. "So what?" Professor Ruffalo said disapprovingly. "Anyway, we'll resupply in Los Angeles and then go out to sea. That bastard can forget about returning to our ship. It's a pity." Mr. Chen and Miss Phalai were originally so friendly. Not only did they provide us with fuel, but they also saved Stan. In the end, our relationship deteriorated because of that bastard. "Forget it, let's not talk about that bastard," Professor Ruffalo said in disgust. "Professor, Benedict joined our research ship a year ago, but I feel that his interest is not in scientific research," Canoris said. "He might be trying to find out about the ruins of Makasa." "What ruins of Makasa?" It was the first time Canoris had heard of this name. 20 years ago, I wasn't actually doing scientific research on marine animals. I was a scholar in the Department of Archaeology and was the assistant of the famous Charles Lee at that time. Charles Lee was the most authoritative expert and scholar of the Inca civilization at that time. We discovered that in the history of the Inca, there was a king called Makasa. That year, we went out to sea to look for the ruins of Makasa. Wait. The Inca civilization should be located in South America, and a small portion of their territory is in North America, Canoris interrupted Professor Ruffalo. Although she was not an archaeologist, she still knew some things. The Inca civilization should not have developed overseas. I used to think so too, but Charles Lee found something special. I used to think so too, but Charles Lee discovered something special at that time. Then, we set off towards the depths of the sea and arrived at an island. Due to the defects in the communication equipment and navigation system at that time, we could not determine the location of the sea where we were at that time. We found a large amount of gold on the island, but at this time, there was internal strife within our archaeological team. Some people thought that we should continue with the archaeology, while others thought that we should seal the news and transport the gold away. And then the infighting began. It was like we were possessed, shooting at each other. Professor Ruffalo said painfully, "It was my first time going out to sea, so I got the sailor's disease. I didn't participate in either side, so I was resting on the ship. When I woke up, everything was over. There were 43 people in the archaeological team, and only 4 of them were alive. Including me, there were 5 of them. One of them told me the truth, and he even gave me part of his gold. I didn't take it. Why? My wife was one of the victims." Professor Ruffalo said, "The 5 of us boarded the ship and left the island. The 4 of them all left the archaeological team. They all became rich, but within a year, they all died one by one." "Golden curse?" Canoris asked in confusion. "That's right, the golden curse." The golden curse was very famous in Native American legends. There were many versions of the legend of the golden curse. The main idea of the golden curse was that if you took something you shouldn't take, you would be cursed. Of course, although the golden curse sounded scary, even someone like Canoris, who was dedicated to protecting marine animals and scientific research, could not help but be tempted by the desire for gold. "Then, Professor, do you know the route to the Marquesa ruins?" Professor Ruffalo shook his head with a wry smile. "I spent half of my time recuperating in the cabin. Even when I finally arrived at that island, I was still in bed and never got off the ship. At that time, it was my first time out to sea, and I didn't even know anything about sailing. How could I know the route to the Marquesa ruins? They were scientific research ships, and after replenishing their supplies, they returned to the ship one after another, ready to set sail." Canoris was very interested in the Camesa ruins that Professor Ruffalo had mentioned. After setting sail, she still asked Professor Ruffalo about the Camesa ruins. "All right, it's already very late. If you want to know more about the Camesa ruins, I'll give you Charles Lee's diary tomorrow. There's more information about the Camesa ruins in it." "All right." The 2 of them returned to the cabin, and when they passed by the cabin corridor, a person suddenly came out of Professor Ruffalo's room. "Benedict. Why are you still on the ship?" Both Professor Ruffalo and Canoris were stunned. Benedict suddenly raised his gun and pointed it at Professor Ruffalo and Canoris. "Where's the diary? Where's Charles Lee's diary? Where did you hide it?" "Benedict, this is a scientific research ship. Are you tired of living?" Professor Ruffalo was not a young man. He would not be scared by Benedict so easily. "Professor." Canoris looked worried. Benedict's face was ferocious, and his emotions were clearly out of control. Suddenly, the scientific research ship shook violently, and the entire ship was about to turn over. Benedict could not stand steadily, and the pistol in his hand accidentally fired. Bang! Professor Ruffalo's expression froze as he looked at the hole in his chest. "Professor," then, gunshots came from outside. Then, a bearded man in full armor walked in and looked at Professor Ruffalo on the ground. "Benedict, you actually attacked first. Did you find the thing?" "No. You killed him without getting the thing." The bearded man was furious. "Wait. He's not dead, the professor is not dead yet. You can't treat him like this, Canoris shouted. Oh. He's not dead. A few more people came in and dragged the professor away. There were more than 20 people on the entire scientific research ship, and only a few were left. Canoris was also escorted out and gathered together with the other surviving companions. In their eyes, the scientific research ship had sunk into the sea. Who are you people? Canoris looked at the bandits in front of her with bloodshot eyes. Beautiful lady, as you can see, we are pirates. The bearded man grinned. You can call me Big Golden Teeth. That's what my peers call me. Canoris had indeed discovered that the bearded man's teeth were all inlaid with gold. Chapter 837. The members of the research ship, who had been captured by the pirates, all looked terrified. This was a civilized society, but now, they were facing a barbaric law. Suddenly, a ship appeared out of the darkness. It appeared without any warning. A subordinate approached the big goldfish and said, "Boss, someone is here." Gold-Toothed looked at the ship that had appeared out of the darkness. "Oh, that woman is here. Put down your guns. It is not wise to fight her here." At this time, the other ship approached. A few women jumped over from the other ship. "Honey, why are you here?" Gold-Toothed smiled. He opened his arms to give Gulai a warm hug. Gulai raised his gun and said, "Old bastard, you have 10 seconds to explain why you are in my territory." Gold-Toothed was still smiling. He did not care that Gulai had a gun pointed at him. "Honey, I am not here to hunt in your territory." "Then what is going on with them? Don't tell me they willingly boarded your ship." "They are not prey," Gold-Toothed said with a laugh. "Are you messing with me?" Gulai coldly asked. "I am serious. They are not prey. Look at them. Do they look like rich people? Then tell me who they are." "They are members of a research ship," Gold-Toothed said. "Research ship members? Are you crazy? Why did you come to my territory and capture a group of research ship members?" Gulai angrily shouted. "These people would not bring them any benefits. They would bring them a lot of trouble. After all, research ships were worthless targets. They were like porcupines. If they were attacked at sea, it would definitely bring about extremely bad effects." "Don't worry," Gold-Toothed casually said. "I have done a clean job. Their ship has already sunk into the sea. What is your goal?" "I want to find a ruin. That is all." "What ruin?" "The Kamesa ruin." Gulai raised his eyebrows and asked with surprise, "Do they know?" "Someone knows," Gold-Toothed said. "How about it? Let's go together." 73, I'll take 7, Gulai said. "My dear, you're too much. 40 is 60, and I'm 60. I'm the leader here," Gold-Toothed said. 50-50. "After all, you're trespassing on my territory. If you refuse, you'll be declaring war on me." Guri's attitude was unyielding. "All right, 50-50 it is then. You said that one of them knows about the Kamesa ruins. Who is it?" Gulai asked impatiently. "It's an old man, but he's injured. I'm treating him now." "This old man has been to the Kamesa ruins," said the gold-toothed man. "Find out the location as soon as possible." Looking at the starry sky, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai felt like they were in a trance. "Fei Lai, are you still angry?" Chen Zhao asked, hugging her. "Don't talk." Fei Lai looked at the stars. She felt like her entire body was melting. It was too beautiful, so beautiful that one's mind couldn't accommodate any other thoughts. It was an unprecedented scene. No matter how many times he saw it, he would never get tired of its beauty. What's the brightest star? Venus, Chen Zhao said. What does China call it? Fei Lai asked curiously. Changdong or Venus? Our child will be called Qiming in Chinese, Fei Lai said, looking at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao glanced at her. Then do you know what Venus represents in the Western world? Aphrodite, Fei Lai said. The embodiment of love and beauty in ancient Greece. In Roman mythology, it corresponds to Venus. This ancient Greek goddess is synonymous with promiscuity and infidelity, Chen Zhao said. I don't want my child to have anything to do with them, even if it's just a name. There was something else Chen Zhao didn't say. In the JD Church, Venus represented the radiant angel, Lucifer. Lucifer was also known as the Star of Dawn, referring to Venus. Okay. Then what do you think our child should be called? We don't even know if it's a boy or a girl, Chen Zhao said. Let's not think too much. After the child is born and we know its gender, we'll decide what to call it. He didn't want his child to have anything to do with Venus. Okay. Chen, can you know if the child in my stomach is a boy or a girl? Chen Zhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could he tell? You can't even do it in a month, and a child needs at least 3 months to form. Fei Lai, anticipation is the most fascinating thing. This process will keep you thinking about it. Then, when the answer is announced, all your anticipation will be satisfied. So do you want a boy or a girl? Well, a girl, Chen Zhao answered without hesitation. You have Jerlin. Isn't that enough? No matter how many there are, Chen Zhao answered. So you don't like boys? I like girls more, Chen Zhao answered straightforwardly. There was no reason. He just liked girls. What if it's a boy? I'll love him, but not as much as a girl. Don't you all Chinese want a boy to carry on the family line? I don't think that's correct. I also don't think that girls can't carry on the family line. Okay, then I'll pray to God that it's a girl. Fei Lai caressed her stomach. Right now, her face was brimming with motherly radiance. If Chen Zhao was asked when Fei Lai was the most beautiful, Chen Zhao would definitely say now. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, the fishing rod beside them moved, and the bell at the end of the fishing rod let out a crisp and urgent sound. A big guy took the bait, Fei Lai cried immediately. Don't move. Let me do it. Chen Zhao stood up and went to pull the rod. The rod's wheel spun rapidly. The big guy in the water kept pulling the line. Chen, aren't you going to pull the line? Fei Lai asked. I learned this from Laurent. The bigger the fish, the more you can't pull it first, because the fish is at its strongest. If you pull the line now, it might snap. Chen Zhao was indeed strong, but it wasn't impossible for the line to snap. In sea fishing, the process of fighting with a big fish was also a battle of wits and strength. It wasn't a direct contest of strength. One had to release and retract at times. When the big fish was exhausted, Chen Zhao pulled the rod with one hand. He could feel that it was a big guy. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.